we had a perfect record through first MC, through most of BWL, through early AQ. And then we started farming the raids. And I made a critical error one week. We lost like 4 people. Boom. Down. That sucks. As a hardcore raid leader, your mental goes in the bin, but you still have to finish the raid. So you have to replace 4 of your friends that you just killed, and they're crying in Discord because they've been no-lifing 20 hours a day for a month. They're barely sleeping, wired on like caffeine and coffee, and they're just like barely functioning. And it's just like you're kicking them out of the raid and bringing in someone else. And it's so soul crushing as a leader to see that, knowing that you could have done something better. And that's like the pressure with hardcore raiding, where you're put in a position where you kill the boss this week or you never kill it.
Welcome to the podcast, man. I'll be honest, I've been really looking forward to this one, particularly because it feels like you've always been at the center of the most intense and high-stake moments in classic WoW, especially in hardcore, which is a big passion of mine. And I think the really big thing for me is that it's not like you're just playing the game. You're kind of stress testing what an MMO can be, which I think is super important because today we'll talk about WoW, particularly classic, hardcore, and also retail. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here and talk about all things WoW. That's my specialty. I live here in Azeroth.
Fantastic.
So I'm super excited. I got days. I've been thinking about Classic Plus and classic ideas and how it works and what, like you said, stress testing, what doesn't work, what people can do, what people can't really, everything about, like, I've just been living it for so long.
Man. And there's so much to talk about, right? There's so much like now retail is like a really big thing. I think maybe 6 months ago, it was all about hardcore, or at least that's where my attention was. Then now it's also the Classic Plus was like maybe a couple months ago, where everyone's speculating what it's going to be, but that's going to take some time. And I think if they want to do it well, they need a lot of time. So, it's an exciting space right now.
Yeah, I feel like with WoW, the hype kind of, it bounces between a bunch of different things. Like they've kind of got this ecosystem going on where it's like classic hardcore is kind of the thing, and then it's TBC, and then we got retail, and then the new TBC patch drops. Maybe somebody does an event. There's so much like interconnectivity with the hype and everything. It's a whole beast.
Yeah, there's so many game modes. So I guess like what is your preferred way to play WoW? I think we need to ask it that way because you got all these different kind of servers, classic, retail, hardcore, you name it, right?
I don't know about you, but I feel like this is a really hard question for me because I enjoy I'm like a two-faced gamer. I'm a sweat, but then at the same time, like I also can enjoy the casual side of things. Like sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, dude, you know what I could go for right now? I want to quest through Duskwood on a rep paladin. And what is that? That's auto attacking and killing level 20 mobs and just go do Duskwood quests on hardcore WoW and just experience it. And so I feel like I have these two very different gamers inside of me where like I'll be super down to like push raids really hard. I'll do like a front 2 event. We do like 20-hour days and we're leveling into this, doing the hardcore dungeons, doing these stuff. But so what is my favorite game mode? What is my favorite preferred way to play? I would say I like stakes. And I think that stakes put me into the world. So my preferred way to play would be just exploring the possibilities of what the world is offering. That's what I'm looking for the most, whether it's through a challenge like hardcore leveling, or I set a goal for myself that's like, I want to get gladiator and here's all the things I have to do, which includes the quests and the dungeons and the raids and get the gear. There's just that kind of, I feel like I'm very goal oriented in that regard as well.
That's how MMOs operate really well. It's setting those goals. But I do want to touch on what you mentioned about like playing a paladin in Duskwood and hardcore. Like that is exactly the same thing for me. Like I think for a lot of people, because it's like capturing that kind of story and ambiance of as you're playing, like you're this,
Yeah,
it just feels
it's
perfect.
so good.
It kind of makes me think of how different when the original classic team was building WoW, like the vanilla WoW. A lot of effort was spent in the alliance side to get that feel right? It just feels like everything locks in with Warcraft
It
3,
does. It does, yeah.
and it doesn't hit the same. It's not. It doesn't hit the same. And don't want to talk badly
Kinda like
of the
Horde?
Horde experience. Yeah, of Horde. Yeah, but it just feels like that Duskwood going from Westfall into Duskwood as a paladin with all the undead and all the mystery. It hit right.
Yeah. You know, I think I've actually heard the same about people's nostalgia, and they really love, like, the Barrens being iconic and that, like, transition between the Barrens and Stone Talon. So I think it can go both ways, but I definitely prefer the Alliance, and I think it is way more fleshed out. I think what the Alliance has, it's nowhere else in the game. I'll tell you this. It's super special. You got Westfall, Red Ridge, and Duskwood just working together to create this crazy nice, like, interconnective. It feels like a huge zone and like area. It's all connected, everything. And that's something that, like, WoW Classic does really well. Even on Horde, you're going between Stone Talon Barrens. You go back to Stone Talon, maybe you go to Thousand Heals. There's so much jumping around that it really feels like you're exploring the world, not necessarily just doing a zone and then moving on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so talk to me again about that goal orientation, because again, the same way you're playing in like a role play fashion, which is like you're just
Mhm.
experiencing the game and you just don't want anyone to bother you, just want to play, live out the story, read the quests. There's also this, and we spoke about it offline briefly, this like mountain upon mountain of goals that you're
Yeah.
setting yourself and pushing and getting some incredible satisfaction from it, and then being like, all right, what's next?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. For me, I always need a goal. If I don't have a goal, I'm not focused. I'm not I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just how my brain works, how I've always played. But for me, I set a goal for myself, and that'll push me to do everything that I'm doing. So, like, for me, like, going back to, like, Frontier days, before hardcore servers were a thing, we're like, I wanna hit level 60 on hardcore. That was my goal for a bit. Then we got, like, into the 30s, into the 40s. I'm like, move the goalpost a little bit. I want to raid on hardcore one day. And then we made, I don't know if you're familiar with Road to Rag. We killed on Season Mastery came out. We did hardcore raiding. And then I'm like, that was good. So that was that. So, like, what'll happen is I'll set this goalpost and then I'll slowly move it until I kind of get burned out almost. That's kind of what happened with Som. Um, I Yeah, that's literally what happens. That I just do it until I just keep moving this goalpost further and further and further and further until I'm like, I'm done, dude. Like, I'm gonna go play, um, I don't know, Assassin's Creed, and just leave everything for like 2 months. I've been doing that for so long, dude. With like streaming, I'll just disappear for like 3 weeks at a time, a month, and just come back and start a new goal.
We'll talk to me about how this love for WoW came about, because even after kind of
It's
the
always
new,
been there.
it's always been like you
Yeah.
told me that like you've been playing since like you were really young, and like you've been playing probably of all the classic creators, like you're one of those that you've been there from the start, like you've been playing for a long time. Maybe not the start, but you tell us like
Mhm.
how long have you been playing WoW and when did it start?
I started playing WoW. Well, I started playing before WoW. I was playing EverQuest with my mom and dad in their laps, like starting at like 4 or 5 years old. I was sitting in their laps playing with them. Even as a baby, my mom tells me stories um, of how, like, she would be holding me like 1, 2 years old, and she's playing EverQuest, and I'd jump her off a cliff. I'd hit the space bar, and I'd jump her off a cliff, and the guild would have to come over. And in that game, when you die, your corpse dies. It falls to where you died, and you have to go get help to get it probably. And so that's kind of like my origin story. My parents loved MMOs. They grew up on games, and so they played EverQuest. They moved to some other game, and they moved to WoW.
So you've
So
played with
that's
your
when I
parents.
started.
You
Yeah,
played with your parents. That's such a cool thing,
yeah.
man. I think
I made a character on my dad's account at the time. I was probably like 7 years old, 6 years old. 2000. 2005, 2004-ish, 6 to 7, yeah. And then, yeah, so that was my introduction. I learned how to type. I learned how to read playing World of Warcraft, reading quests and everything. So I literally when I like I'm not joking when I say I grew up in Azeroth, I did. I would spend all of my free time playing pretty much within reason. Um, Obviously, like I had to go to school, so I would go to school, I'd come home, and then I'd play WoW, and that was my life. And that's honestly been my life since then.
I
And so
mean,
that's kind of the story. There's no real breaks. The breaks, like obviously, I wouldn't play WoW every single day. I would like I did play other games, but for the most part, I'd always come back to it. You know?
that's so special. I think not only did you play loads of WoW when you were young, but your parents were talking to you about WoW, man. Like I think that's a big I think what we're entering in like the next generation is that a lot of people who are now are starting to have their own families that have played WoW their whole lives or played RuneScape or whatever game, whatever MMO, they pass that love on. Like a football team gets passed on, like it's like
Yeah,
this is who we support, man. It's like
yeah.
this
This
is
is
the
like my
game we play.
passion. I love this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it just really like, and I think that really comes off on how you play it. Like, it's just something that you really kind of grew up with. Um, so what was that journey like? Because of course, WoW went through its ebbs and flows. Like, obviously, you had the version of retail back then, which was vanilla, and then it went through its all expansion loops, and then classic came back, and then before that, there were some private servers in the middle. What was that whole kind of timeline?
Oh man. Well, I played. Like I said, I was very young when I started. I didn't really do anything in WoW. I was just kind of walking around reading stuff. I had multiple characters. I leveled a hunter to 30, a rogue to 30. I had a mage to 30. That was my hard. Like I got hard walled off around the 30s, probably because I didn't know where to go. Um, it kind of like that's where you kind of get into the territory where like you did the zones that are right in front of you. So that's probably what happened, and I just like don't, you know. So for the first 2 to 3 years, I didn't really do anything. Hit like in TBC is when I actually hit 70. I started playing the game actually. Um, 9-year-old me was doing Karazhan pugs and getting kicked out of Gruels because I would talk in chat. I would talk in voice and be like, "Who is that?" And then they'd kick me. So actually, I have a funny story. I got kicked from my guild for being too young. Back in TBC because they didn't know, and then they figured it out. I'm like, they kicked me, and so that happened. TBC, Wrath, I made a DK. Kata kept playing. I got really into low level BGs. This was a big thing back in the day. I don't know if you
Well, like
participate.
Twinks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah. I know it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I had a 19 paladin, like I didn't have a 29, I had a 39 rogue, and I just spent all of my time on those characters. And every time I played my main, I would be farming for those characters. So all I did was do that. I did that for all of Wrath, all of Cataclysm, even the beginning of Mop. And then what happened? My friend tried to get me into Molten WoW, which was a crazy fun server, level 255 private server. This was like 2013 probably. And I tried it. It was terrible. I hated it. But that got me into private servers. And I a couple weeks later, I got in. I started playing on Warsong Phoenix, which was a classic 12x XP server. That was my first private server. I played him for a long time, all the way until like 2019. And I've been playing classic and everything since then. It's pretty much I've been playing classic WoW since about 2013-ish on those servers
The
and
private server
TBC.
part. The private server bit is interesting because I remember when I played, it kind of when you're young and you play WoW, you're like, this is the world. These are the rules. And you accept them like a part of reality, right? You can't really break them. And then as soon as I got into that first private server where I had like, I don't know, max like XP was like
Mm,
10x, right? And you're
yeah.
just zooming through these zones that you used to play and used to be so hard. And you'd loot like a random mob in Stranglethorn and you get like that Staff of Jordan would just come up after like 100 mobs. And you're like, wow, I got an epic. And I remember I kind
Mm.
of burnt
Like
myself out
boosted
with
drop. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. I burnt myself out through private servers because then like all of a sudden the world didn't really have that meaning because I could deck myself out in all that
Mm,
gear that I could never get when I was like a teenager on not
yeah.
knowing how to play WoW. And I remember it was just a moment. I don't know if that resonated with you, but it just taught me a lot about how a game exists and its rules and how it informs how you play and like what it means to you.
Oh, I mean, I didn't have that experience because I feel like the servers that I played on were miserable for that kind of stuff. Like I played, the server I played was 12x XP, but it had no increased drop rates. So I was wearing the gray items from Northshire in my 40s. Okay, so I was ratty characters. You'd hit 60 and you'd be in like greens from Stranglethorn. And you'd have to struggle to do these dungeon groups with random like Russian people and you don't even know them. They can't, like, it's crazy. The experience was insane back in the day. Like everybody was like speaking, like there were like Chinese guilds and then there were like these Russian guilds and they were all on the same server and like you'd like intermingle with everybody. I kind of like, it was actually a crazy time. I kind of miss having everybody from like across the whole world on one server. It was such a unique experience I haven't really seen since then. You get like exposure to like all these different cultures and different like you have these people doing like GDKPs before it was like super popular. I know people would do it in classic, but like it was huge on these private servers. It was really big. Um, no, it was nice.
And do you remember when you started taking WoW more seriously? Like, it went from a
It
game
was
that
in
you
private
just played.
servers.
It was then, okay.
Yeah, no, it was. So the first character I ever made on this private server, 2013, was a priest. I must have been like 12 years old. 2013. I was like 14, 15. I was like in middle school kind of age. Made a priest, and obviously you make a priest and you're like instantly into a raid. They'll just invite you. They don't care. You're a priest, get in here. We need prayer of healing. So I made a priest. I instantly hit level 60. As soon as I hit level 60, I got whispered to join a guild. I just joined a guild, started raiding with them, and that's where like my first raiding experience started. Um, and I think over time it just got more and more serious. Like classic raiding back in the day on these private servers, you joined a guild. If you wanted to actually commit to playing with them, it was like 3 to 4 days a week, their schedule. You know, like it wasn't like this classic WoW um meta where you'd raid for 1 hour a week and then you'd go. It wasn't like that. These servers were super buffed. And so you'd go in and people didn't really spam world buffs. There was no boon. It was all PvP servers. And I don't remember ever getting world buffs. We didn't really do it. The only time I ever got world buffs was for Nax on these private servers. And so like 14-year-old me was cutting extracurriculars early to walk and like rush home to make my 5 p.m. raid because I'm on PST time schedule. So that's when it started getting serious, I guess, like right away. I joined this guild. I had 4-day raid weeks at 5 p.m. My mom is making dinner in the background and I'm just like, I start calming on the raid. It's crazy. It was a crazy experience. That whole dude.
And you were
Private
allowed,
servers
no?
were crazy.
Your parents are cool with it, like, because of course they played
Yeah.
EverQuest, so like they're
Yeah,
seeing
no,
what
they,
you're doing, how passionate you
yeah.
are about it, and like.
I mean, my setup was in the living room, which was literally 20, 15 feet away from the kitchen. And I was vocal. That the craziest thing is I've always been really vocal. I haven't like been like that kind of guy that was like muted in raids. So like I would be speaking and there was like this meme that like every time I spoke, my mom, because it was 5 p.m., my mom would be making dinner or like washing the dishes or something. So every time I cue my mic, there's just pans clanking in the background. There's something going on. The sink is running. It's super loud. And I just always had this like crazy chaos going on. But no, it was fun.
How did it feel, man? I remember when I was a kid, I really wanted to raid Karazhan because everyone in school was playing. And I was terrible at the game, man. Like I look back, I remember when I played when Classic came out again in 2019. It was like I got to get at it again and actually play the game the way I always wanted to, not just like needing the Taskmaster axe in Dead Minds, thinking
Yeah.
I could trade it to my friend Russell. And then he's like, I traveled all the way to Redbridge. I'm like, here's the axe. He's like, oh, trade it. And it's like, I can't trade it. And then I'm like, oh, that's why everyone was so pissed. And I couldn't understand between need and greed because greed sounded worse, right? Like greed is just like you're taking stuff. I didn't get it. And and I always dreamed of raiding. Like even when I was younger, I was like, how do I get to that point where I can have all that cool gear? And I took the shortcut
Yeah.
with the private servers as a kid. But for you at that age, coming out of school and like you're playing with grown-ups, right?
Yeah. No, it was weird. It was weird. I'm used to being the youngest. I grew up being the youngest person in the group, so now it's weird that I'm not that anymore. To be honest, I still feel like it, but honestly, usually I still kind of am because nobody new has played WoW since then, so still usually am one of the young people. It's kind of rare to meet people. They exist, but it's rare to meet people that are like 20 years old or something playing WoW. Um, but yeah. No, yeah, it was a little weird, especially because I like I said, I've always been vocal in the raids, and so I feel like I got promoted to like class role officers, and it's like imagine you're just raiding and you have like a 15-year-old priest council leader. Like it was kind of honestly, it's kind of weird thinking back on it, but um, it wasn't really weird at the time. I'm just gaming, you know. I met a lot of the people that I don't really still play with them. I feel like over the years we've kind of drifted and done different things, and then maybe they're not playing WoW anymore. Um, but they still like hop into my stream every now and then, and we like say hi. You know, it's kind of cool having that experience. And I feel like classic guilds, like you kind of remember your friends for a long time. Like they're like, yeah, I feel like I made like kind of lifelong friends there, so it was really nice.
Yeah, man, that's what's special about MMOs. You really connect with people because having those shared goals, meeting up for raid times, uh, all these things that happen, they connect people together in a beautiful way. And it doesn't really matter about age or anything like that. It's like you just got to be able to play. Are you a nice person? And
Yeah,
then it can vary, but like ultimately, like the way you connect on these games, I think is unlike any other game at the time. I think that's
yeah,
what made it so special, and kind of futuristic in a way. Even though now we kind of feel like, ah, MMOs are everywhere, and then you get all the different branches of it. I think at the time it was really special thing, and I always think back on that.
yeah. No, it is. Yeah.
What did you what happened with kind of retail? And I'm talking about retail in the past, but like you've when we spoke, you always said you were always a classic player. Like you played classic WoW in all its iterations. And did you play retail until what point? Then when did you just kind of focus on classic and that became kind of your main focus?
I played WoW as a whole all the way through private servers. I I feel like for me, I wasn't necessarily I'm not necessarily like anti modern WoW. Um like what would end up happening is I'd be playing these private servers and then a new expansion would come out. And then people from the private server would be like, we playing this game? And it's like, yeah, I'm down to try it. And so every expansion I would play, even the private server that the guild that I was in would sometimes make a guild. We did for Legion, and um, a lot of us played for what was it, WAD, the one before that. So we played for WAD, Legion, and then by the time the next expansion, I think I don't remember, dude. What was
Yeah,
that?
no,
Like
same here.
Battle for
I don't know any of
Azeroth.
the Legion, the
Yeah,
retail.
it gets
Well,
kind
I
of
don't know them
blurry at
either.
this
Yeah,
point for me. Like but yeah, I did play this. I played um WAD, Legion, Battle for Azeroth. I don't know if that's the order, but that's when I stopped. Battle for Azeroth, which was like 2019, before Classic Service came out. That was kind of the last time I really played retail WoW. Um, so yeah, it has been a minute, and then I guess now I could try this expansion, Midnight,
and
seven
where
years, 8 years later.
and where I'm going with this is why I can tell you why I was turned off from retail. I remember I tried it, and I remember I was so excited for Cataclysm. I was like, "Whoa, this is amazing! Everything's gonna change." I remember I logged in. I was like, "Nah, something doesn't feel right." I don't know. It just I couldn't get back into the game in the way I kind of saw it before. What
Yeah,
changed for you when you saw kind of the vanilla version of WoW kind of going in its own direction after TBC, after Waddle K? You got all those ones. You were still playing private servers. Why did you kind of want to stick to classic and private servers? Like, what made you not want to go
I
back
don't
into
know.
retail?
I really don't know. I think what happened when I played the private servers with my friend, the fun server that was in MOP. and then I started messing around with private servers in MOP as well. I I think what happened is all my friends quit playing Mists of Pandaria. And so I was, like I said, I was in a low level PvP guild. I was doing the like 19 stuff. That guild was super active through Classic, through TBC, through Wrath, the beginning of Kata. But then all of a sudden, people kind of just started leaving. And I think that kind of pushed me away, because what happened is like our 10-man pre-mades turned to 5-man pre-mades, and then they turned to 2-man pre-mades. And then I was the only person on, and I'm just like, just solo queuing BGs by myself, and then I'm solo queuing dungeons by myself, and I just like wanted to start something new. I don't know. So I think that's probably what led me. So it wasn't even necessarily that I was super unhappy with the game. I think if my friends were still playing, I'd probably maybe not have played classic WoW servers for a long time, which is an interesting thought.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like
I
what's
wasn't super unhappy with it, honestly. I
it's
still
like what
kind of messed around with it. I still remember doing like LFR randomly by myself on like a druid, just doing LFR through Mists of Pandaria. I'd log in every couple weeks and just do it. It was really weird, honestly.
it's just like
But
it's your happy place,
yeah,
man. Like it's just
yeah,
it's like where like everything. Like starting a different game. It's like I've been there because it's like I'll just go back and play classic WoW, and I'm leveling my TBC Elemental Shaman right now, and I just do it on downtime. And someone will ask, "Why are you playing the same game again?" And I'm like, "It's just I just like doing it, man. Like
yeah,
it's a weird one. Even if like I don't have any friends on this American server I'm playing with, like I'm just playing alone and I'm doing like pugs and I'm just leveling up. It still relaxes me, and it's a special thing. Even though it can be seen as a bit weird. So, what did it mean to you? What did classic WoW mean to you when it launched again? Like 2019, they've announced that it's coming out. The whole kind of foofa with you think you do but you don't, and then we definitely did. What did that mean to you? That now classic WoW is becoming a thing again, but like in an official manner where everyone was going to start playing.
I mean, I thought it was nice. I thought it was super cool. That's kind of been like, that was kind of my thing for a long time. Um, at that point, I feel like as soon as they announced it, I started speed leveling. And the reason I started speed leveling was because I had just finished doing TBC WoW server. So like rewind before this came out, I started participating in this whole like fresh cycle. This is kind of something like, I would say like late private server era type things before classic WoW came out. A lot of people were making private servers. There were a lot of classic and TBC different private servers that would start and get killed and just die off, and there was new servers that would start and then they would get DMCA'd, and there's a new server, and they'd scam everybody and leave. And so there's like this like crazy meta where it was like, what's next? What's the next fresh? So I got into speed running. I started doing that. I got like server for 70 on a couple servers. I should say I actually got tired of classic. I played it for like 5 years. It was like 2017, 4 years maybe. I played a lot of TBC right before the classic came out, and that's where I was doing the speed leveling. And so classic for me was like, oh, I can prove myself in this arena that I've been in for a long time, and speed level. And this was around the time I was like kind of getting out of high school, and I was like kind of faced with this like get a job, go to school kind of situation, and I'm like, I just want to play WoW. I'm just trying to level. And so um yeah, I was looking at it like, maybe I could try streaming it. I'll just level as fast as I can and try to get server for 60 or world for 60 and stream and see where that goes. And hopefully it goes well. And that was kind
Yeah.
of like what classic WoW, as soon as it came out, I was like, wait, this could be it. This could be it. This could be sick. Um, this could be like my break for whatever. And so for me, that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
It was
I
something
mean,
that and obviously I was super hyped about it because I love classic WoW. I got to play it officially without the servers being worried of getting shut down. And And so for me, it was this arena for me to like kind of prove myself after having played Classic and be like, this is where I can do everything. I could go rank 14 and I could get Scarab Lord and I could do world first, maybe 60 and this level as fast as I can and do all this stuff that I want to do.
Yeah, because you're in that top 1%, man. Like you finally were given an opportunity to really show what you're made of in this game, not just as a player, but also as a commentator, a streamer.
Yeah.
And I think there's one thing I'm really interested in with MMOs is this idea of expertise development. Like as a player, you get so much pride and satisfaction. I think this goes down to a deep human level of creating expertise, of understanding strategies, knowing the most optimal path, knowing exactly what to do in every single moment. Like that's a really good feel good kind of our brains want to feel super comfortable in any situation, and the only way we can feel comfortable is if we have a plan for everything. You can play the game first and just explore stuff, etc. But you love the idea that you're an autopilot and you kind of know, okay, I'm going to get this first and I'm going to go there. I'm going to stop by Ogrimmar and then I'll head back to the Barrens, get that quest, get the flight path. And it's, I don't know what it is, but we just want to get deep into this expertise when someone else outside will be like, you already know the game, play something else. It's like, no, you don't get it. Like there are more levels to this than you understand.
I think it's just a different kind of satisfaction. It's the same reason why people like doing things the same thing better. It's just the same. It's like you already know how to golf. Why are you trying to do this? Like, why are you trying to get a hole in one? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, just hit the ball, bro. Just enjoy it. But like at the same time, I think what you said is accurate. I think it's like this core feeling of growth, where like you're developing something and you're seeing yourself improve, and I think that can really motivate people through their passions and everything. And I think a lot of the times with WoW specifically, especially Classic, and I think that's why you see so much of this, it shows in time, where you start speed running or you're doing it more efficiently, or maybe you're multi-boxing because that's more efficient. And I think that's why you get this kind of meta in MMOs where it's like very time sensitive. Everything's super like, oh, that's not worth it. Don't do that. That's not. And I think that kind of probably comes from this community sense of growth where like a lot of people are feeling like they're trying to do that kind of thing. It's an interesting thought, honestly. Think about it like that.
Yeah, min-maxing, it almost shows that we may kind of speak out against min-maxing, but that's kind of what we're wired for. We're looking for
Yeah,
the
we
best
are.
gear, right? Like that's
Yeah.
what we want to do, and that it hurts the game. I think, in my opinion, min-maxing does hurt the game in the long run because the whole point of an RPG is that you do the stuff that you like. You pick the items that you want. This sword looks cool. Yeah,
Right.
it's not as optimal as the two-handed axe. Like let's say the whirlwind axe quest.
Oh yeah,
for the
exactly.
warriors. Right?
That's a great example.
And everyone's like, oh,
It's like, oh, you picked the sword. Are you dumb? Really?
Exactly.
You picked the sword. Don't you know? That's a 0.3% DPS downgrade.
Exactly. I played as a dwarf
no, that's
paladin.
Exactly it.
Dude, on Classic, I played as a dwarf paladin. I remember I was in Zanaris, and some guy stopped me and said, "Why the hell are you a dwarf paladin?" And I'm like,
"Oh,
what do you mean? I want
to missing expertise."
Exactly, you're missing expertise. You don't have all the human ratios. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I like being short with like huge shoulder pads like that, and I like the shield how it covers all my body.
By the way, I love dwarf paladin is my go-to in any RPG.
We totally see eye to eye on this.
I'm playing a new MMO right now, which is a very classic one called Monsters and Memories. I love that. It's been super cool. I'm playing a dwarf warrior, dwarf fighter, I guess.
There we go.
But love it.
So wait, tell me more about like your thoughts on min-maxing and how you see this as how it affects the game.
Is it harmful? Yes, it is. It's definitely harmful to the experience that's intended. But I think it's natural. I think it's natural to get min-maxing because it's when anyone gets passionate about something, they're going to want to show that level of like expertise where it's like, I've done this so many times that like, I know exactly what to do with this situation, or I know exactly what's the best, like, I think as long as there's certain kinds of min-maxing that I think are better than others too, where it's like personal min-maxing, like I don't want to waste my time. But then I think in a different lens, as soon as people start projecting it to others and it's like, "You're wasting my time," or "You're wasting your time," that's when it starts getting more harmful. And I think that kind of stuff is really, really bad for the experience. And you're seeing it now with like Classic, where it's like, um, I don't know, you get into like a random raid and they're like, we won't invite a rogue because it's not optimal for our comp. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter here. Like you can invite your friend as rogue, but like, you know, or people will be like, um,
Item level, right?
item
Like you,
level, gear score. It's just imposing these like challenges and boxes to be confined within in the RPG, and it really narrows the scale of the RPG for a lot of people, especially people that don't know how it all works. Because they're kind of like put into boxes by other people, where it's like, oh, you want a DPS? Play a warrior. You want to play a shaman? Well, you're only healing. Don't even try to do anything else. I think that sucks for a lot of people, especially new players. I think they get the worst of it because like an old player where it's like, screw that, I don't care. I just won't raid. But a lot of people don't really understand the nuance of like why people don't like elemental shamans. Even though it can be great leveling and it can be great in dungeons, even in 10 mans and low raids and like even in non-serious raids, you can still play this stuff. Um, but people really like to enforce the rules of the meta. It's crazy. Um,
yeah, it
I tell
makes
my
you.
stream all the time about that. Like, it doesn't matter if you're really speed running, sure. But most of you guys, you're just playing the game, and it's not a big deal. Especially if people want to try on those specs. That's a big deal.
Yeah, if you want to be a boomkin, right? Like just have fun with the game as long as you're. I always think back, like, how do you solve this min maxing problem? And part of it is, okay, we have to move to Classic Plus. And I think the survey I thought was brilliant. I watched you and I watched Zara, you talk about it with your stream and go over all the different scenarios.
Yeah, that was a fun
And
one.
it's super fun. And how do you solve it? Like, I mean, for the druid, for the boomkin and the shaman, yeah, you can buff up the talents, you can move stuff around. But then when I'm thinking like the item level and I think in the optimal path for raiding, it just feels like what made classic WoW classic is that there were some predefined rules to things, right? There was a way of it being classic that made it classic. I don't know if I'm making sense, but as soon as you try to start fixing certain things, I think that's what led classic into retail. Like that's how the game kind of evolved into this. There's no more rolling for things. Everyone loots the boss and everyone gets an item. And then that to me took away from what it felt like, but I don't it's tough to figure out a solution. That's in my mind. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Figure out a solution that doesn't deteriorate the spirit of classic.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I think it comes down to understanding why classes are weak. Why is a boomkin bad in raid? To be honest, they're underpowered in general. So this is a good example. But the reason that druid is underpowered is because they're designed to be good in the open world. So when you put them in a dungeon that's inside and they can't shape shift out of roots and there's no point and there's no travel form and there's no like need for their instant casts and there's no real need for their like innervate, like because if the bosses just die and they're, nobody dies, you don't need battle res. Um, I think what ends up happening is like you turn this like major utility force into like you're what's happening is you're turning this class into like a narrowly focused caster, and then you're saying it's bad. So like the real problem is that classic WoW is designed as an MMO entire experience. Is the entire druid experience bad? No, it's not. And so if you think about it like this, it's relatively balanced. And a lot of people, obviously this is a good example because druid is underpowered. I think druid can be buffed because I don't think their open world experience is that much better than a hunter or a rogue or a mage. And they're also not that great in raids. But at the same time, like there's this draw to this class where you are the ultimate hybrid. You could be wearing healer leather gear, go bear form, and you're as tanky as a warrior with a shield on. A priest could never do that. You could taunt. In fact, I think on private servers, quick shout out. Okay, nobody's going to know him, but Stay Classy. I played with a guy named Stay Classy in private servers, and he spec'd Feral Charge. He sacrificed his healing in classic WoW. He spec'd Feral Charge, and there would be times where he would Feral Charge as a Resto Druid in our raid. He would Feral Charge, taunt the boss, so the dragon didn't breathe on us. He saved the raid multiple times doing that kind of thing. And having that sort of flexibility on a playmaker druid, if you had a boomkin that taunted the boss away from you from saving and save the raid, it would be amazing. You guys would not, nobody would be complaining about how underpowered boomkin is. But the problem is that in this day and age, the bosses are solved and the utility is not as important as just raw numbers. And so when you think about that, I would say, that's what you have to design for if you're trying to keep the classic spirit. You have to keep the class intact and balanced at the class level, not the spec level. You can't balance Frost Mage. You balance Mage. You don't balance Boomkin, you balance Druid. And I think Druid's caster abilities can be tuned in a way where Druid caster is a little bit more desirable, and it can still offer that flex tank, flex taunt, flex healing role with utility. Like, they could bark skin, taunt the mob, and then immediately tranquility after. And it's just like they could do some weird stuff that no warlock could do, no mage could do it. Now, mage is a bad example because mage can do most things, but like, that's kind of where I'm at. And the same thing with Ret Paladin. A lot of people talk about Ret Paladin balancing. I think the main problem with that class is it's just boring. It doesn't have an ability. And if it just had like one ability, it would be much better in every sense. Give it a taunt and some one random like Crusader Strike, sure. But then you have to lower some other numbers to make it work. Relatively balance wise. That kind of thing where like you're not really breaking the game by adding this kind of stuff, and you're kind of just solidifying their role as that class.
I think
that was a lot. I'm sorry.
No. Don't say sorry. That was brilliant. I think what really stood out to me is this idea that there are so many different ways to play a game like World of Warcraft or to play an MMO. And I think through this min-maxing lens that we're looking at, it feels like for Classic, the peak is raiding, like getting that gear. You can still do world PvP like Payo and just go around and just be a nuisance and have fun. But your value as a character, as a class, comes through the lens of a raid.
Yeah.
And so you brought up such a good point. Druids are unstoppable outside. Like you catch one in Stranglethorn and they can do everything. They can patch in every group. There's a lot of value that they bring.
And they're stealth. Like they could just walk away and stealth away from you, right? Like there's so much they can do.
Yeah, man. I think this is exactly what the WoW designers were kind of reflecting on at the start when they were doing this balancing. Because now we sit back and think, oh, they suck, they're durable. It's like, no, they kind of saw the game. Like this was my hunt. Like my hunch when I spoke to Greg Street, like what I felt that he was telling me is, they didn't really know what they were getting into. They had a great idea for this game, but like the expansion model wasn't so set. They were just like, all right, let's just open up TBC because we did a bunch of work on it in kind of when we were building out vanilla. And then we'll see how this model kind of grew as they did it. And so they were kind of looking at it thinking, well, players are always going to want to play PvP and players are always going to want to go out into the open world and just do like fun stuff. But over time, everything just went siloed into raiding. And there lies the problem with min-maxing.
Yeah. I think, yes, it has happened. But I think that's a problem of us playing the same game for 20 years. Right? Like, I think you can only experience Silithus quests like so many times before you don't really care about going out there. And I think for a lot of people, the population of people that are playing is a lot of replaying players. And so we're getting this more narrowly focused experience every time you see it. I mean, you could see like Classic, right? If you go back to 2004, obviously it's a completely different time. It's not comparable. but the experience is much more open. You're doing everything. You're just playing the game. And these private servers come out, and over time, this starts narrowing in and in and in, and then it transfers over to like um, classic WoW. It transfers over to like classic WoW, and this private server meta kind of comes through. Even though a lot of people didn't play it, it kind of did like people kind of knew going into it what was kind of pretty good. A lot of people played Nost. I mean, Nost had like I don't remember how many people played it. I
It
really
was
don't remember,
huge.
but it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
huge. And then Lights Hope and everything. There's a lot of private servers that people did play. They got a lot of publicity, and so those players kind of spread out through the world when 2019 happened, and kind of spread that meta. So even though a lot of people didn't play for 20 years, the community of Classic WoW has been, and so we have this super focused meta now where it's like Fury Warriors, Fury Warrior tanks. Oh, you go minimum healers. Assignments are already figured out years. Like I still have AQ40, Nax, and MC, BWL assignment sheets made, fully assigned. If I needed to, I could just pop it open and put some names in, and it's done. And we know every mechanic. We know how everything works. And so, like, if you put that same thought process to like questing, a lot of people just kind of did it, and they've done their PvP and they did rank 14, and they've done their duels, and they so for a lot of it, people are playing just for this kind of narrow experience, which is great. The PvE experience is very replayable because of the dopamine of loot, and you get stronger than other people, and there's just all this different stuff like working um, together, and that's probably why it's so min-max. So I guess what I'm saying in a long way is like I think that the design worked the first time around, but it's not very replayable. It is, but to an extent where you're going to get min-maxy behavior over time.
It goes back to then, what do these designers at Blizzard do with Classic Plus? Because we did the survey and there's kind of a sense of it, but how do we avoid going back into the very same game that we have now? And maybe that is the
Yeah,
only way. Maybe that's the game that sells, man. Maybe like the hard truth is that they look at the numbers, the way players actually play, the why they play. They maybe do a more internal survey, whatever it is. And it's like, well, funny enough, players just want the same thing again. And I know a lot of people be like, no, not at all. But it's like, I don't know what the answer is right now. I think there are some obvious ones, but how do we avoid getting back to this point where we're in now, where everyone's just doing the same thing? Or do we even want to avoid it?
that is a hard question. That is like if you know the answer to that, you would be a billionaire,
Yeah,
I think.
right?
Um, so no, that is a really hard question, and I don't really think that there is necessarily an answer. But I mean, I have some ideas on Classic Plus. I think one of the biggest things is like surprise people about the world. People need to see things and be like, oh, like there's stuff out here that I don't know. There's 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 these quests that I just don't really know about, or there's this rep that got added and I don't really know how to get it, and there's this new mount that is somewhere we don't really know, but it's on Wowhead. They posted about it, and there's like going to be all this stuff. I think one of the things that I really dislike about new stuff is honestly, I think Wowhead data mining is really bad, and I hope that Blizzard finds a way to just not allow data mining. I don't know how it works, so I don't know if that's possible. Um, but like for example, we in SOD they would add like fake things, so we'd like kind of you would see everything, and you some of it would be real and some of it would be fake, and be like I don't know which is, but you kind of go through and kind of have these expectations of what could be in. And I think even that was dangerous. Because people are like thinking about things and they have like these expectations, maybe even false expectations of what they want. And it just leads people to kind of either have solved experiences or false experiences or false hopes. And it's just weird. There's a lot of like weird stuff going on with data mining. Um,
And just for those listening, data mining is when they release a new patch or a new they put it on a PTR test
right.
realm. People can jump in on it and they can just mine the shit out of it. Just go see what's going on, like all the data. Oh, this is new, or How is it like in your understanding?
Yeah, basically they would release the patch on this PTR, and then somebody would go into the files and whatever, and then they'd pull out all of the new stuff and they'd just dump it on Wowhead. And it would just be this massive blurb of new stuff, and you'd see 100 different new items got added, 20 different whatever spells got changed, and you would just see all this stuff. Even if it's not necessarily final, you would just see all the stuff. So it's not super reliable, but it kind of would give an idea of what's coming.
Just feels a bit archaic, like the fact that
Yeah.
I'm the developer for a game, and before I release something, I just spoil it all and allow people to just leak it out. Like if I'm doing the next Marvel movie or
Yeah.
whatever, like I wouldn't just go leak out the plot or like this thing. Like you get a trailer, you get snippets, but it should be a controlled experience, and it just feels like find whatever you want and speculate and have fun. And it's just like why?
Yeah, I would even say like Blizzard could probably just talk to Wowhead and be like, please don't like post the data mine stuff, and or like talk to, I guess there's a lot of sites. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not.
But anyway, it's this idea of mystery, man. Like having like stuff that's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is new, this is different. Let's talk about it, because that's how the game felt when we started playing it as kids.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the goal with SOD, Season of Discovery, and for a lot of it, it kind of did capture that. But the problem was that I think the scope of the discovery was such that you have 12 to 14 hours to find all of the things before everything's found. Um, and that means that for the vast majority of players, there was no discovering. And obviously, you could be like, well, I played SOD and I didn't follow any guides and I found all these things by myself. But what ended up happening was like they started designing these things to be confusing on purpose so that it would take the community longer. So it became harder to do that kind of self thing, do it yourself. It just didn't make sense. It would just take you so long. Um, so it's like this, I don't know. It's
It's like
very
a
hard to solve because you kind of can't make it too hard that one person can't like figure it all out. You can't be too easy that one person can figure it all out, but you also can't make it too hard because you want people to be able to find it out by themselves. So it's this like weird balance of like, how do you create mystery while not making it too easy or too hard? Um, it's hard. I think the answer is by creating a non-substantial mystery. Does that make sense? When I say that, like a new quest that nobody really cares about. It doesn't
like
really give a reward. It's just a quest that gives you 300 XP.
it's like an Easter egg. Like you just
Right,
you figured
that
something
kind of
out.
stuff.
Yeah,
And you just put that all over the game,
I think that's
everywhere.
fun. Yeah. I see what
Like
you mean.
like there's just a random engineering quest in wetlands that you give her a copper tube and she gives you a rough bolt and you bring it to Iron Forge and you get XP or something, and there's like a letter, there's some RP. It doesn't have to be serious. It just I think you want new things. You're like, whoa, what happened? How did I get this quest?
And it bleeds into whatever profession you're doing. It doesn't have to be exactly,
Right.
but imagine you get
That's kind of
that bronze tube in Duskwood where you need it for that quest, and you're like, I don't have a bronze tube. I got to go in the AH. But
right.
when I was playing hardcore, I couldn't use the AH, so I was like, what the hell do? I don't have a bronze tube. I have to go find one. And
You can find it. Yeah, exactly. And I think that kind of stuff, if you just litter it around the whole world, it's not substantial. It doesn't matter, right? There's not going to be a Wowhead guide on this. It might get added to Rested XP. There's not going to be a post about it. And I think that kind of stuff, if you add enough of it, not necessarily saying that you fill the entire world with that kind of stuff, but it's that premise where like you add a new mob somewhere and you add a new rare mob and it drops a different item, and you put in this new quest chain that people may not care about. It's a level 30 quest chain. And you, I don't know, you create new experiences that aren't necessarily classic, that don't break the fantasy. One of the things I like jewel crafting in classic. I think that one of the ways they could develop um, gear beyond the Nax or what's currently in is through gems, through jewel crafting and socketed gear, and it could provide like alternate like whatever. I think it's cool. Not everybody likes jewel crafting, I think, but I like jewel crafting. I think it could fit into classic WoW pretty easily, without necessarily breaking anything or breaking the spirit of classic. Um,
Even like archaeology, right? Like I like stuff that just makes you explore more
yeah,
of
you
the
could have
lore in
like
the game.
secondary professions or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like um, I 100% agree.
Well, to what
Yeah.
extent does it have to be? I feel like there's this line we need to toe with original classic where like you need to have a similar game, right? And I'm completely for it because we all fell in love with that game with those quests. But how much liberty do you think the classic plus team has to mix things around, to fix a couple quests or make them better, make them more fun? And then that's completely subjective, but you get what I mean. Like, does it have to be a complete kind of representation or at least legacy of classic, or can it
Mm.
be, can you do some new stuff? Can you make Hemet Nezingray not just kill all these mobs and then collect pieces of paper you find that you loot off the mobs? And can we do something more? Or would players get pissed and be like, no, that's the game I know, that's the game I want to play. I want to do those quests.
This is an important topic for me. Um, I remember we talked off line, I
Offline, off
guess,
stream,
offline.
whatever it is. Yeah.
I wanted to say off stream, but we're not streaming, so it was
No,
confusing me.
it's fine.
But anyway, yeah, offline. We talked offline. I talked about how I kind of like did this like paper thing for Classic WoW, and in that I've been doing a lot of research and I've seen a sentiment across multiple papers, I guess, multiple like polls or um, whatnot that when you ask people about this, it's important that their nostalgia lines up. Like if you're nostalgic, like you may not be, but someone out there is nostalgic about those quests. Someone had a really good time in Stranglethorn with their friend who doesn't play WoW anymore, and they leveled through TBC or Classic, and they did all these quests together, and it was great. It was their best experience, and they love Stranglethorn for those quest chains. May not be a great example, but you
I
know,
think it's a good one.
here you know
I think it's a good one.
it's a good example of the idea. I like to use something like Skull Rock or Moonbrook because it's familiar for hardcore players. You have this shared experience of what it is, and everybody kind of has these like views of everything that's very shared, and it's like almost a shared experience that everyone has probably gone through, um, and it's familiar because you know it. And I
It's
think
collective trauma.
in a way, yeah, in a way, it's not necessarily um, good or bad. It's just their memories. Their memories can't be invalidated. I think when you make the game, I think that's one of the problems Cataclysm has. Because if you actually play through Cataclysm, it's an improved leveling experience a lot of the time. It's more modern, I guess. Maybe not improved, but it's much more smooth. The quests are better. Objectively, they're better quests. You're not just killing 10 mobs. But the problem is that people had great times killing 10 mobs. And some part of them is having a great time because they had a great time in the past. And a lot of people, even though they may not admit that it's nostalgia or may not even realize that it's very important to keep that intact. And so I think you can present the same world, but it's really hard. I wouldn't touch the quests that are in because of that. I would just avoid it.
I
Um,
I I just want to add, like, I can imagine the person who had a really good experience leveling in Stranglethorn Vale. I brought up the Nezingray quests and like the books of Nezingray, whatever that is, and you're picking up all these like pages. I can imagine someone having a great time thinking, wow, I'm collecting these pages, and they have a whole mental map of like what chapters drop where, and like they have to go back to their bank and put them in, and maybe they need the back. There's a whole that whole idea we talked about at the beginning where people are like coming up with these structures for efficiency and expertise. That's part of their fun. And so
yeah,
I just thinking out loud and reasoning with you, like it makes a lot of sense why you shouldn't touch the quest, or you should just kind of tweak them a bit so they still have that feeling
right.
without getting too far away.
I think like a good example of this, actually, um, related to the Jeff Kaplan podcast episode that was recent. he says that quest is terrible. The green Hills of Strangthorn. I think if there was a container, I think he mentioned this. If there was like, if Blizzard made it that quest in Classic Plus give you a box to put the pages in, I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily be upset because there is that efficiency thing, but at the same time, I think that people would be like, oh, I mean, it was cool to get the pages, but this is also pretty nice.
Yeah, this is
I
better.
think you can kind of improve really bad quests without necessarily changing them entirely. Like I think you can maybe I don't know, but like I would be hesitant to like nerf Moonbrook pillagers, in a classic plus. Um Maybe you just kill 12 instead of 15. I don't
Yeah,
think that would upset people.
but again, that's what I was referencing with that kind of collective trauma, man. Like, especially hardcore players, but like, see the guy like casting there, and you just see the fireball come out, and your hardcore character's gone. Like, you don't want to lose that. You want to feel like you still have an attachment to this world, and think of the pressure that the Classic Plus team is under right now. Like they have to
It's
they have to
insane.
they have to toe
I
two
don't envy them.
lines. Yeah, right. You gotta keep this game for the nostalgics, for the people that have dedicated their life and really like their time towards playing one game. And then you also gotta be like, this is a new game. Like this isn't Classic WoW, to the shareholders, to anyone who's interested. Like this is a brand new game and it's gonna bring new people and all these competing pressures. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes you think.
Yeah, I honestly like I think that they are going to probably add some things because of that shareholder perspective too, and I don't think the players are going to be happy about it. We'll see how it actually turns out, but that would be like my assumption. And yeah, I'm a little concerned because
I
like
don't. Yeah, the level
yeah,
all the level stuff, the boosts, that stuff. That's what really drove me off retail to begin with. I spoke about this with Zaryu just to set the scene, but this idea that in retail, your time is more valuable than your money, so you're willing to get a boost, get whatever to skip to the end game, right? And in classic, and works the same thing with RuneScape as well. Your money is more valuable than your time, and so you're going to invest your time to get to where you are, and in a way that creates a more pure RPG. Because like, I don't know, I see you in Stormwind, I'm like, this is a dude that's been playing, like he's been burning the midnight oil to get this gear to be where he is, and that to me feels real. And when I get to retail where people have bought stuff and like the characters don't feel real, they haven't gone through that, I don't know, it just, that's the split I see. I don't know if that's how you resonate with that as well.
with retail, it's definitely harder to tell the experiences people have gone through. And I think that's what you're saying,
Yeah,
right? Where like you
yeah.
can see in classic, like, oh, that guy has rank 14. He's been through some dark nights. Like that guy stayed up all night probably last week getting that. Like if he just got it, like he's probably exhausted. I'm surprised he's even online. Now that kind of like, um, I think that classic WoW in that regard has very clear like, oh, that guy is a nerd kind of stuff. And I think they exist in retail. It's just much more obfuscated nowadays. Um, and like you said, with the WoW token, it's much more even in like MOP and Wrath and Kata. I mean, even in anniversary servers and classic nowadays, like the enforcement on gold buying or RMT is very lax. Um, and I think that's kind of taken away from me trying to care about like specifically material achievements in the game, even in classic nowadays. And I think that's something that's very bad for classic. Like you said, you could tell that that person is a gamer right there. Like you see him in Stormwind and they're super geared, but um, I haven't felt that in a while, to be honest. Even in classic, I felt it in 2019 for sure, but I think that some things have changed recently. I don't know.
Well, you need to earn what you do. That to
Yeah,
me is fundamental to a healthy MMO. If I got this
yeah,
sword, I earned it. I got to the point where I can raid with these people in this guild, and I've earned my spot, and I've gotten the loot, and I'm not just buying gold and kind of getting in a GDKP, which is fine, but I get it. But like again, this is my personal opinion. People can disagree, but I want to be able to go around in a world and feel like, I have a good example. Remember hardcore used to be an add-on? And we'll talk about hardcore, but like it used to be just an add-on, and that add-on, one of the restrictions was you can only do one dungeon per run. And we talked about this, I think, offline.
Yeah, we did.
And for me, one of the things that really made it feel like so immersive, so real, was that I would be docking the boat. I would be getting off the boat into Darkshore. And you can see on any player you inspect in those servers, because there will only be hardcore people playing because they were basically dead classic servers, you could see the gear that people got. And you could see how far they've gotten, not just on a hardcore standpoint, but how lucky they've been to get certain gear. What quests have they done to get this ring or whatever the hell it was? And I was just like, damn, like I could walk up to someone and be like, dude, you have awesome gear. How did you get that? Or how did you get that sword from SFK? How lucky must have you been? And
yeah, I know exactly
right?
the sword you're talking about.
I had that sword, man. Like I got it on my
Phantom
warrior.
Longblade?
Yes. No, I think it was one of those.
Something
Anyway,
like that.
dude, I literally remember I did this. This was the last time I ever did it. But I walked up to Hogger, where all the low level hardcore players were playing. I was like, no way, it was Shadow something, or what was it with
I don't know. I was wrong. It's not Phantom.
No, it's another one. There's another one. I can't remember it.
Shadowfang?
Yes. No, was it Shadowfang?
That was the one. That's a one-hander.
It's a one-handed sword because I was
drops from the trash.
Yeah. I think it would have been
that might be it, because that's super rare. If you got that is crazy.
Yeah.
I respect that.
It was Shadowfang. Yeah. So anyway, like that to me is what makes an MMO special, man. That's why I loved hardcore so much. That's why I fell back in love with the game. Again, this idea that you earn what you get. But what do you think? Like, should you earn stuff? Should it be right? Should it be absolute?
I think you should have to earn it. I am very much pro. Okay, this is what I would call it. Is the game rewards time spent in the MMO, not necessarily. Like, I guess it rewards investment into the game. So that means you've leveled, you put in 200 hours leveling, you got geared at 60, you joined a raid guild, you've been raiding 10 hours a week, you put in time, you put in, you get this weapon, you've played 1,000 hours. And that's something that, like, I think is very important, that the game rewards time more, and time and investment in the world, more than necessarily just skill, and more than necessarily just currency. Even though skill is a good indicator of skill and can set people apart, I think the most important thing is you don't want somebody walking around with the best gear in the world and they've played 1 hour, but they're the best players. So they just have the best things. Even though they've only played for 1 hour, they just have the best item. That doesn't really make sense in the world. And so I think that there has to be this balance. Rank 14 is a good example, in my opinion, where, like, I don't necessarily think that the old rank 14 system is great, but it rewards time investment into the server and game, and you come out with something you really earned.
Yeah,
and you spent your time and you got it, and it was a little competitive, maybe, depending on what server you were on, what time you did it, a lot of factors, how many bots you had on your server, whatever. But yeah, like, there are a lot of things that are like that, and I think it is really important for Classic. Even though people get upset about that, unfortunately, I think if you design Classic WoW for people that don't have time, you're gonna get a hollow reward for everybody. Even the people, like, that don't have time, it's gonna feel a little hollow. Even though it might feel good. And I think you can see that with current rank 14. The way that it's set up is basically, you just farm honor whenever it's convenient. No decay. There's a hard cap. You'll never have to farm more than 500k in a week. People just do AV and they AFK it during their workday. And yeah, it's
that's not good.
No, it's not good. It's not good. And to the point that then you go back to min-max culture and it becomes a requirement. You're trying to join a guild. Well, why aren't you rank 14? Do you even care? That should never happen. It should
It's
never
tough.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should never have like that kind of thing be a requirement. It should be an extension of your character. And I think a lot of things are missing in Classic WoW. Those extensions are missing nowadays. I think and I think that's why I got bored of it. Why I'm doing like hardcore. That's kind of my extension.
Yeah, you're jumping through those loops, right? You just got to go into
Yeah,
BG.
I'm making my own hoops.
Exactly. That is, we're gonna get to hardcore. I'm saving it because
Yeah,
it's the
that's a
best
lot
thing.
too.
I do want to touch on another thing, which is I think a big point of Classic Plus is every time I watch a stream, I'm reading the comments, I'm seeing how maybe Czar or you or whoever's talking to their chat. And because I worked at Jagex and Old School RuneScape, I see a lot of players continuously reference Old School RuneScape and this evergreen model, the idea that you can constantly come back to the game and it never really ends because of the way the content spread out. Like rather than Classic WoW or WoW being just like kind of very linear, kind of you're building up to this raid and then there's a better raid and there's a better raid. I think it's the circular model, whatever they want to call it. Old School RuneScape is brilliant because you can go off and do different types of content, and you can take a break for 3 months, come back, and you haven't been devalued in terms of your time investment and all this stuff. So I feel like that's something that they're also trying to consider is like, how do we make this forever game that keeps people that avoids again this whole bottleneck of having to create another expansion and power borrowing and all that stuff. What is it to you? What is this like comparing World of Warcraft Classic Plus with an old school RuneScape type model? Is it possible even?
I think it's very hard. A lot of people refer to RuneScape and especially like you said, especially when talking about Classic Plus, RuneScape does this, RuneScape does that. And I think in a lot of ways there's some lessons to be learned about what RuneScape did well and what didn't go well. Um, they're fundamentally different to the point that like it's like comparing saying like, oh, Call of Duty did that really well. There's a lot of things where like it's not transferable. Like you can't really have an evergreen experience in a progressive MMO with multiple players, I think. Because what ends up happening is saturation. You're just going to get on era. Like if you want to play an evergreen mode, it's era. That is the evergreen mode. You can still play it and people still do. It's never changed and people still play it. And it still has a decent pop. It's not insane, but like they have like thousands of raiders that play every week and they have guilds and they have raids that go every day. By no means is it dead. So that exists. And so it shows that like the game is playable forever, even if you don't reset it. And so it's more of like a mindset thing. Why do people lose interest in the game where some people don't lose interest? And I think with Classic WoW, the problem is that they run out of that meaning to chase hoops. Because a lot of people that quit Classic Era didn't complete their whole character. Maybe they don't have 3 items. Maybe they never got ATS. Maybe they never. There's probably things they could find if they really wanted to. There's things they could do. But the problem is it's not fun anymore because it's just very repetitive to get these, like, to finish these characters. I think there's no real good answer for the way that Classic WoW exists because in a lot of ways people play with rating. And so that means you're rating for the foreseeable future for a drop that might happen and you're probably contested on for years. Like I know people that try to get Thunderfury on Era and it took them 3 to 4 years to finish it. It's just like with RuneScape, it's not artificially gated in time. And I think WoW is, so people kind of lose interest. I think it's really hard. They would have to completely remodel the game to be more single player for it to be kind of relevant. I don't think you can do the whole horizontal progression thing. Horizontal versus vertical being like WoW's, how raids stack on one another. And sort of invalidate, even though I don't think they do. In Classic WoW, there's a lot of integration where like an end game character is probably still running BWL until they're done getting 4 or 5 pieces, maybe 3 pieces. Um, you do AQ for a little bit, you do Nax. You're still kind of bouncing between these like raids. Um, but at some point, people kind of hit this like boring raid wall. Have you been there? Like you kind of, I don't know. Like you said, you played classic. What point did you quit? You went through TBC.
Went through
What
TBC.
happened when you quit?
First and foremost, I found that joining an actual guild and putting in the time to raid every, like, that was always something very difficult for me. I always had something else coming up. So I'd always join pugs, and in the pugs, sometimes
Oh,
I'd get loot, and
yeah,
sometimes I'd kind of I'd do the hard reserve, soft reserve, that whole thing. In TBC, I played the crap out of TBC, and also Waddle K. Again, the classic re-release, because I was way too newbie back when I was way younger to play, but I always felt like I had to be there, and if I didn't, it was fun. It just required so much of my time that I just wish I could have maybe found another way to get loot. Like, I would just try to go PvP, and I'd be like, maybe that's how I
yeah,
get my loot. So I always did that. I'd just try to, let's say even like TBC or Waddle Cave. If I had to play TBC as is right now and I get to 70, I'd definitely end up kind of maybe joining a guild, realizing I can't dedicate to their times. So I just end up doing pugs. And then I only get really successful with the pugs towards the end of that kind of
tier.
expansion, exactly, or the tier, whatever it is, that moment. Because that's when I get all my loot and I feel kind of powerful. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm like 2 tiers below everyone else. And then I'd get bored and be like, all right, if I can't get into those big raids, which by the way is like, it's a lot of pressure, man. Because I was playing tank as well, so I was a
Yeah,
warrior
yeah,
tank, and it was like, man, I had so many people screaming at me, like just like doing like what was it?
yeah.
The expansion where the Phoenix drops, the Phoenix mount.
Alar.
Sorry, the yeah, exactly, Alar. Man, that whole raid was just like I just a bunch of people yelling at me. I was like, all right, I'm not fine. Like, this is not probably not for me in the long run. And I
Yeah,
just end up moving to PvP, and then I do PvP for a bit, and then I'm like, I miss leveling, and then I go back to leveling because that's where
yeah,
that's in a loophole, in a very long convoluted way. That's kind of how it is for me.
yeah. I think what you said is what happens though.
I'm
People
the average
stop
player.
wanting
Yeah,
to commit the time. It's a lot of time to get geared in WoW. Like, you know, especially once you start raid logging. I think one of the biggest problems with WoW is when you lose interest in the world, over time, you're just going to quit. A lot of people will, there's a very specific kind of person that won't quit after raid logging for a long time. And those are the people who are on era. And so this is what I'm talking about when I say it. There's the problem of that it gets boring after you've gotten your character 85% of the way, like in RuneScape, for example. If you got a character 85% of the way, you still have 10,000 hours of stuff to do. And it is not necessarily time gated, and you can come back whenever you want. You have an hour here, an hour there, it doesn't matter. With WoW, you're coordinating with at least 20 people to do anything like that's going to progress your character. You're committing probably 3 to 4 hours of a night, probably at prime time where you could be doing other things, probably interrupting your real life to do that because it's not a really convenient time for you, but you still have to do it if you want to do it. And so what happens is I think it becomes a burden over time because you're not logging in every day and it's not your passion anymore. I think a lot of people lose that over time when they're not logging in and they don't stay addicted. You know, I think that RuneScape does that really well. RuneScape can keep you addicted. And I actually only quit RuneScape because I took a week break.
and then what?
And I'm serious. I
You
took a
couldn't.
week break and I never logged in again.
You never locked in.
I was taking a week. I took a week for Frontier and then I logged in. I did log in. So I logged in and I did 2 runs of Cursed Gauntlet. And I'm like, I'm done. This is it. And I think what I was doing before is like, it was this goalpost thing that I was talking about. I think it's like addiction sometimes with
Absolutely, it
like
is.
um RuneScape. I was in the middle of Front 2 and and I would log in and play 12 hours of RuneScape, go to sleep and raid, and then play 10 hours of RuneScape. I was just going crazy, and it was the early point in RuneScape gets you super addicted because of how much um, growth you see in your character. You get insane numbers of skills. You're getting quests left and right. You're picking the easy ones. You're doing all this stuff. You get your rewards. You do your early stuff. You get fire cape. You do this, do that. And the design, like, kind of puts you in a position where, like, you're addicted and then you get into, like, this stuff. And if you stay addicted, you keep going. And if you don't stay addicted, you quit. And I think WoW has that exact same problem where, like, it gives you this world and you get addicted to the world and you get to experience everything about it, and you're getting levels, and then you're getting gear, and you hit level 60 and you do these dungeons, and every dungeon you get maybe an item. It's this huge upgrade. And then you start doing early raids and everything's an upgrade, and you get these set bonuses. And then all of a sudden you get to this point where you're like tier 1, tier 2, and you're like, well, I'm not replacing this gear. I have 10 pieces that's not replaced. I don't really want to replace the gear. I worked really hard to get this. And I think it loses that growth over time. Even though you're getting better gear, I think you lose that, like, fuel of, like, huge motivating factors unless you set yourself, like, goals. I think the game doesn't present it as much
Do you just need more
as, like,
things to
leveling.
do? Do you just need more things then? Like, is it just beyond rating? Like, I know,
I think you need more extensions.
yeah,
I think this is kind of my end game. You need more stuff like Winter Saber Tiger that appears to, like, that appeals to each kind of player. You need more of that, like, optional, like, you could do this and it could be cool kind of stuff. There's, like, rank 14. Obviously, it's a terrible system right now. I think it's terrible in the past too. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I don't know what to do with it. Some sort of PvP system. I think they should add, like, Venom Hide Ravasaur in Classic Plus. I think that would be fantastic, and have them do, like, rotations around Ungoro and keep that zone alive more. Add more gankers to Ungoro. That'd be great. I love that as
it'd be
an
great,
alliance
right?
player.
Yeah, dude, I
No,
remember
but, like,
yeah,
yeah.
go on, please. No, go on.
No, I think that kind of stuff, like, that is what keeps people playing. Without that extension content, the raids become, you lose sight of your character over time. When you're just logging on to raid, you don't get any gear. You log off. You log on to raid, you don't get any gear. You log off. You rinse, repeat for 3 months, and you're like, why am I playing?
Hey, you become a
Nothing's
cog in
dropping.
you become a
I'm
cog in the
just,
machine.
yeah, and it's just like, and I think the problem is when you stop caring about the world. Um, so they have to keep people playing in the world. It's really important. It's more important than new raid content. I think Classic Plus would be more successful if they didn't add any raids. Classic Plus would be more successful than Classic if they didn't add any raids and all they did was put people in the world more. It would be more successful. And I hope that's something they do. Obviously, they're going to add raids because people demand it. But, like, they really need to figure out more things, more reasons for people to go run around the world and do random stuff. Less reasons to be in an instance, less reasons to only raid, less reasons to be in a battleground. It should be keeping people in the world doing things. If that means adding more quests, more endgame focused quests that give raid level loot, maybe that kind of stuff, like alternate gear paths for people to kind of explore new quest chains and get these growth points, or maybe it's a specific trinket you can get from a long quest chain, or there's some sort of, I don't know, there's just got to be these more, like, I would say Earth Strike kind of grinds, these like optional extension things that maybe it's not designed like Earth Strike because that's miserable. Have you done that?
No, what is it? Just for the
Earth
audience.
Strike is the Silithus quest um, chain where you have to get a bunch of badges. The badges are rewarded by certain quests. So you have to get 50, 60 badges. Let's call it 60 badges. Each badge is a repeatable quest that you have to do, and you just do it 60 times. It's just like, it's like And each quest is like an elite quest where you need like 5 people and you kill 30 bugs. So you go kill 900 bugs in Silithus. This obviously, it's not how it works, but just as a simplified answer, that's pretty much what it is. It takes you like 30 hours, 20 to 30 hours of just doing elite quests and group quests in Silithus. But like that kind of stuff where you get people together and in the world, I think the way that they did it with Earthstrike is a little lazy, particularly. But like that sort of design, I think, to get people to do things, and then it puts people in the world. Maybe add, obviously better bot fighting, which is so hard, easy to say, hard to do. Incentivize people to go in open world, buff respawns on nodes in the open world, so people aren't incentivized to go do Dire Maul East. I think that's a big one. Incentivize farmers to go live in Ungoro or Winterspring or Silithus, because people don't do that anymore. It's not efficient. It's not, I think baseline Blizzard has to make dungeon farming a convenient alternative that's objectively worse than open world.
Get people back out, yeah.
Even through PvP. So like, they should just juice up Black Lotus spawns. Why not? Why not make Black Lotus just super like plentiful in like one zone? Maybe like once every week, there's like a zone that has extra Lotus spawning in it. And everybody's PvP. And it brings people to like Burning Steps for that week. And that's like, there's like always a Lotus up every 5 minutes. And you find it and you PvP over it.
Dude, I love
that kind
this.
of stuff.
That
kind of idea.
Yeah,
where like you're putting people into this world where it's like Ungoro is now enriched thorium, and it has each thorium node has 10 hits for however long.
Can you imagine like 2 guilds squaring off because they're getting ready for raid and they have to go get their consumables, so they have to go farm the items, and like they meet and like, I don't know, Silithus, where there's like this, I don't know, there are a bunch of nodes and there's like a purple lotus on the floor, and like everything you said, like create those moments and people have to meet and actually like square off. And
that's
so essential.
So that's what, like I said, get people in the world, because there's a surprisingly large amount of people on these servers, but it doesn't feel like it. You're walking around and you're not running past 30 people when you're going to Dire Maul. They're on 8 different layers, and they're all going to the same instance, and they're going to go into their portal and do jump runs by themselves, dual boxing. They're going to get all the stuff they need, and then they're going to log off. And I think that's the antithetical experience to what should be happening in these MMOs, where it should be like you are putting yourself in a position where you are going to, I don't know, see someone tapping your node, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to go to the next node, and you're going to tap it, and they're going to see you doing it. And there's this like experience where you're, even though you didn't talk to that person, you didn't interact with them at all, there's no experience, you have participated in this MMO world. And like I said, those like Black Lotus thorium ideas, I actually think that's that kind of thing. Like, obviously that's just spitballing. I've never thought about that, to be honest, but like they sound good. I would try it. But like, there's a lot of things like Plague Bloom that should be addressed. Plague Bloom being only spawning in 2 nodes, two zones. There's not that many nodes of it, or the respawns are really bad. Just bump it up. Make it spawn more. Add new spawns. Yeah.
Well, Blizzard now has to realize that everyone has access to this information. When the game was originally made, they're like, all right, there are these 2 nodes here. People have to find them, and then they have to share it amongst themselves. Now it's like, download this add-on, know exactly when, respawn timer, line up. You got all these bots going after it. Like, it's a different game to what it was originally made for, right? It's just like, who are we kidding ourselves? We are all experts in this game, or if you're not, you're competing against a bunch of other experts that are powered by add-ons that just can maybe script their, like, it's just crazy how competitive it is. And it's like, no, the game has to say the same. It's like, well, something's got to change. It's interesting when you talk about like instance behavior, because in TBC, Ramparts, like, it's all open, right? Like, you can see like technically like into Hellfire Peninsula, and because originally when they were making that dungeon, there was a big dream internally for them to remove this idea of instance dungeons. It's always been something that's plagued the WoW design team, because it's like, we're creating this open world, we want everyone to see each other, and then we're just shuffling them off into these instances where they get completely separated. And so Ramps was like this idea of, can we do that? And so they designed that dungeon so you could potentially see other people questing, and it was all more visible. And then that never panned out, just also for architecture issues and you name it. But I love how you brought that up, because it does feel like we all kind of just isolate ourselves into these instance dungeons.
That's the design, yeah.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, that's kind of how the end game is designed, and for better or worse. I mean, I've played a lot of EverQuest, and it's not better. When you don't have instances, it's not better. It ends up being like this whole like, no, I touched that boss first. That was mine. No, I did it. And then it turns into this like, everything's a world boss. People are like griefing each other, and it just becomes this like
Chaos.
super. It's, you think classic WoW guilds are toxic, just like, you know, um, just imagine if there was only one Nefarian per week. You know how toxic that would be.
My God, I can't
And
even imagine.
yeah, like it would be dead in 20 seconds from spawning, because a guild would show up with 500 members and it would just die. And so like that kind of, that's why I think instances have to exist.
Well, did you know, we're finally going to get to it, but like, I think one big solution that has really helped, I mean, for me, and I think for you as well, and for a lot of other people, has been the inclusion of hardcore from its early
Yes.
days as this kind of first community run initiative. I can't remember exactly who the guys were, but shout out to the hardcore guys, because they changed the way I play the game. And then it became from an add-on to then Blizzard finally acknowledging it. And now we're here where we've just come out of this hardcore loop where now people are now starting to play retail. But I still think hardcore WoW was one of the most important things to have ever happened to the game. What was your experience with it? How did it start for you?
It's been a long journey. It has been a long journey. I started playing in 2020, the end of 2020. Nax had just come out. We played Nax. Our guild died. I guess it's like, we're done. We're not going to farm Nax. We did it. And so at the time, all I was doing was GDKPs. I had a huge infrastructure. I played a bunch of characters through Classic. Remember, I said I loved Classic. I had 7 level 60s that I rated weekly on. I probably did 100 to 200 Nax runs between the time it came out and TBC came out across all my characters. I made millions of gold, and I spent it all on those characters. I had tier 3 on like every single character. I randomly, I would like spite bid people, and I bought like Eye of the Dead for 25k. I never used it. It's just like that kind of stuff. Like it wasn't actually a spite bid. I was trying to make them pay more, but then they stopped bidding. So I was like, oh crap.
Guess I got it.
But like, yeah, I guess this is gonna be a really good TBC trinket, please. And so that was a complete waste. But so like I did that. That was what I was saying. But in between those raids, me and my friend would duo, and it was great. It was a complete change of pace. It was almost the epitome of my like 2 gamer modes. Like I would go super try hard, carry these Nax runs, raid lead, 1.5 hour speed run GDKP pugs that are making like 10k gold splits, and it was crazy. It was a super try hard, sweaty universe. And then I log over and we just grind boars, and we grind windstalker. What are they called? Plain striders. Like these birds, and I would be farming tin ore so I could get my blacksmithing up. I leveled blacksmithing and made my own gear. It was like crazy. It was this crazy, like I was just experiencing this RPG mode of the game alongside it. It was very nice. It was an amazing break from that like super try hard mode. And I think that's where it started for me. And being the raider at heart, I instantly was like, but we were like level 30. I'm like, dude, what if we raided in hardcore? Do you think we could do it? Do you think like we could ever do it? And so in my title for a long time was a One Life Raid Dreamer. That was my Twitch title whenever we'd stream hardcore. And That's all I did. I just leveled. TBC came out, dropped hardcore entirely for 2 years, came back for some, and that was my first hardcore real solo and then raid experience. That was crazy. Um, Hardcore leveling kind of brought back that like joy that I had from like leveling, speedrunning, and everything, and I kind of combined it. Kind of got me back into speed leveling, which was super cool because naturally, if you died in hardcore, I mean, you just go again. It's perfect for speed levelers. Speed levelers,
You got
you
to do
love it.
everything
Like
again.
they love
Yeah.
it. They really do. They're all over it. Zorant, K Super. There's so many speedrunners in like um that scene. So it was kind of interesting. They would run like hardcore cups too. Actually, that was my first. Now that I think about it, that was my first experience. Hardcore Cup 1, I raced and I got first on Hunter. I think we got like level 24 in like 8 hours or something. I don't remember, but something like that. It was longer. Um, that was my first experience. And then I came back. I was like, dude, what if we leveled here? Like there was like a tournament like a month ago. Do you want to play? It was fun. Um, that was crazy. Actually, think about that. That was my first experience doing the tournament.
Well, you're just speed leveling. You're just trying to get to level
Yeah,
20.
yeah. I was just
I think
leveling it
I
for the.
watched an event like that. I don't know if I watched the exact same one you were watching, but I know exactly the one you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Um, So I did a couple of those. There was a lot of hardcore cups in the early days. They really hyped it up with events and it worked. It caught my attention and I did it. I think they got a lot of speedrunners that way. Um, yeah,
It's I think what you said is I think resonates with a lot of people, which is you're a blacksmith and you've never made your own gear because you're too busy leveling up and trying to get as fast as you can that it's actually suboptimal to have that gear. But with hardcore, because everything's a bit slowed down depending on whether you're speeding or not, but I mean, at least for me, it finally gave meaning to all this crap that I saw in my bank. Like, why did I never fished?
yeah,
Dude, I never fished before hardcore. And all of a sudden, I'm like, this is amazing. I can just like
yeah. And you're
loot,
fishing
get,
your own leather for
yeah.
your engineering or
It feels
something.
so good to
Yeah,
like find heavy leather and you're like, yes, I can make some target dummies and maybe not die, right? So like it just gave meaning to everything. And like even like the in the Barrens, you get that swiftness potion, right? And like I would just pop that off in
yeah.
RF. I just pop it off in RFC when I'm bored. I'm like, I don't need this. It's okay. Because if I die, whatever. In hardcore, everything
You'd
freaking
save them.
mattered, man. Everything mattered. And it
Yeah,
just it never felt more like an RPG. And I was hooked on the game more than ever so before. And the death sucked. And a lot of people look at it as like this masochist kind of game style, but for me, it was like this actually makes the game feel real. It makes it feel
no.
awesome.
The stakes like really make you immerse yourself into the game, especially the first time around. I think once you've played it a couple of times, you kind of understand how it works. Like there's the serial hardcore players, but that first hardcore run for a lot of people is like you're doing every profession, you're leveling your cooking because you might get a food buff that might save you because you get 4 extra stamina or you're getting goggles, but you're level 15 and you're getting your tiger's eye goggles because you can if you fish enough or
And you look
you
awesome.
you mine enough and it's just there's all these like things that you can do to help yourself survive. And a lot of the times it's by immersing yourself more into that journey and spending more time at the low levels because you want to be safer and not lose your stuff. And in a lot of ways that hardcore stake um, kind of makes you take your time, which is what people struggle with the meta and the min-maxing and the efficiency that people really want you to be doing. It's like, oh, get rested XP so you're faster, so you can get level 60 and raid with me because I'm trying to raid with you. So you got to get here fast, right? And that's like that pressure that everybody has nowadays is like, it's very hard to just sit back and have the, time to just spend 12 hours in the Barrens. But that's really what the game is. It is the journey. And I think that's why it's nowadays, it's more raid loggy because people speed through the journey to get to the end, and then there's nothing at the end but more logging off.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's pretty hard. Going back even to like that question about like how do you make it more sustainable? make people take their time, I guess.
right?
That could
Force
be
them.
something.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
forcing them with the permadeath, but I mean, hardcore as well. It allowed me to actually learn the classes I played, like, properly.
Yeah.
Like, even priest, warrior, like, once you start realizing that if I demo shout the mob, it's gonna
They're doing
do
way less. Yeah.
you're gonna do way less damage to you, and it's like that doesn't click. That never clicked with me when I'm playing. Like, obviously you knew, and it's like, yeah, you
Yeah.
should, but like in hardcore, you actually should. Like, your rotation matters. Like, the way you and you're that feels so good, man. And it's because there's that pressure to not die, and it's like you also have to go out and work together with people, and like your
Yeah.
relationships actually matter, and like people are way nicer in dungeons. And if you go into like a hardcore RP server, it's a blast because everyone's like, oh yeah, let me help you, or let's run out together in dead mines. You're like, all right, let's be careful. Or like, it's like as soon as people can just die and run back to their corpse, it's like as if nothing happened besides a repair bill. Like, the game doesn't really pop in the same way. But it's that
Yeah, it really doesn't. The stakes are a little after playing honestly, it's funny because what you said about demo shout actually really resonated with me, specifically as a raid leader. I had raid leaded a lot in classic WoW. But when I got into hardcore season of mastery stuff, it was all about like as much min max as you can. And I never got that deep into it where it's like, oh yeah, like you demo shout Screech because it reduces the mob damage by 30%. And then all of a sudden I go back off of hardcore and I'm like, why is nobody using these debuffs? It's crazy OP. It's like if your tank was wearing mail gear versus plate gear, which they do, but then they also don't demo shout. And so like it's like they're wearing cloth gear. And it's crazy, like even to this day in TBC, like I'll go into these pugs and nobody's using these spells and nobody even cares and nobody whatever. And it's like you'll just see these tanks die for no reason. And I think hardcore has made me much more cognizant of the impact of these debuffs, and it's like ingrained it in my head how powerful these tools are that I didn't even realize because it's like not necessary. It's like, oh, our tank died again. Let's just kill the boss next pull. Because it's like you're only going to get punished every third or fourth attempt. Like you're not going to learn. Um, yeah,
it's a special mode. It's a special mode, and it really helps you master your class, because if you don't, you die. And for some reason in hardcore, all I played was warrior because I got really
it's the most
into.
fun.
It's the most fun by far, man. And you can
I know
all the
what it
different
is for
weapons.
me.
Yeah, what is it for you?
It's the gearing. It feels so noticeable. You get a new weapon, boom, you're hitting 100 damage more per swing. Your cleaves are owning mobs. You sweeping strike whirlwind one shot a pack. You get plate gear and it's like you're super tanky all of a sudden, and you're like get these huge keystone abilities, whirlwind. You got these like charges you get in combat. You're like kind of in mobs' faces, so like your gear matters so much more. Like you're a mage, you don't really like you feel it. You have more mana, but you don't really feel how geared a mage is until you're like level 60. Like until you get like really high level of like specialized gear. Um, warriors, warriors gearing is so much fun. I have spreadsheets, so many spreadsheets for warrior specifically because it's like, oh man, I need to eke out just a little more DPS. What's the best weapon I could get at this exact time? Um,
Min-maxing feels more okay in hardcore because it's about life and death, right?
I love min maxing no matter what, dude. I'm not
Okay,
gonna lie.
you're
I
in. You're
love
all
it, but
in for
like
it. Yeah.
I'm all about it. But that's the speedrunner in me. It's like you said, it's at the beginning. It's that like growth for me. I look at it as like growth. It's my skill that my knowledge more. That's not necessarily skilled to get an item exists in the game, but like it's like accruing knowledge, and yeah,
Yeah, I mean, when I get that. Look, when I worked in mobile games, I remember one thing that I learned from these merge games, which is like these games on your phone where like you're basically moving things of the same category together and then they like collapse, right? And so you get like this really messy board,
yeah. I see.
and
Which yeah,
you're just moving stuff, right? And I always thought, like, why do people like this? And one thing that has made so much sense to me, and it still resonates in like every game I play and in general, is that humans love making order out of chaos.
yes, I
It
love
is
it.
like
Honestly,
it's
that
this,
yes,
and that will speak to you because it's like when you just start cleaning a kitchen, you're like, I just love moving this. I want to move it. Once you get going, you don't want to stop. And it's like when you're playing
Never.
WoW, especially as a kid, you're like, what do I do with this copper ore? What do I do with this red dye? And like, you just, all this stuff is like flying at you and you're like, oh, just sell, 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 sell. And then as like you kind of get older and you get better, you're like, wait, I can save that for later. I can use this for that.
Oh yeah.
And that's the feel good, man. I think that's the speed leveler in you, but I think that's in
Yeah, no, that's insane. I've never thought of that before. That's for me, I've explained it like this. WoW is a massive puzzle that I'm solving, that I'm trying to solve over time. And like I don't know, like this may not make sense, but there's these quests in like I spent a week in my basement 5 years ago, and I still think about this day where where I finally cracked the code of this quest called Sweet Amber in Westfall, where it comes from a dwarf in the side of Westfall, and he has you go to 5 different locations across the world, and you have all these quests in your log that you're trying to organize to turn into Thousand Needles and Teneris, and you're going to Hinterlands to get a pre-quest done, and I've lined it up perfectly to do it in like an optimal route, and I'm just like, oh my god, I solved it, I did it. I can do this quest in my route. And it was so satisfying that I spent so long. I still have the spreadsheets to this day. It's like way too big. It like lags when I open the spreadsheet, but it's every single quest and every single step that I mapped out for my route. This was before Rested XP. So I basically made my own Rested XP on a spreadsheet. And yeah,
It's incredible, man. You are
that's
solving a puzzle. Yeah. Based
that's
on
what
like,
it was. Yeah,
yeah.
that's literally what I'm doing. That's what I'd like to do.
And that is what I think grips a lot of people who play MMOs is that, and then it varies in degrees and play styles. But I, at the end of the day, the reason you keep coming back and you play the same game over and over is because you are getting better and better at making that order out of the chaos by optimizing those flight paths, getting that right quest, making sure you have the right item, making sure you're doing the right path to the point where it is order now. Like it's not just something that you're just
Yeah.
chaotically doing. You're shooting like straight like an arrow. We're just designed for that, man. Like this is how hunter gatherers had to do that in the plains to figure our stuff out, and it
And
just
and and
gets passed
honestly,
down.
like thinking about this in terms of what we talked about with Stranglethorn, for example, like should you change existing quests? Think about it like this: if we are changing, it's like if we change the puzzle pieces that people already put together. I think that's I think could also be one of the reasons why people don't like change, even though it may improve this. People feel like they solved that part of the puzzle, where it's like I remember how to do that quest and I know this area. So that's kind of done.
I mean, that's a lot of ways. That's why we have the retail that we have today. Maybe not this midnight expansion, which is doing super well, but like in general, the evolution of WoW through its expansions is trying to implement some form of quality of life that ends up just upsetting a lot of players because it's like, hey, that was my order that you've now
Mm,
just given to everyone, but I worked really hard to create that order.
yeah.
It's just quality of life is great, but when there's too much of it, it just pulls me out of the game, man. Like I like having my mount in my backpack. I like having a keyring. I like having my tools and having to organize which tools I need for when I need to do mining and whatnot. So when I need engineering, and there's all these little things which, like on paper, everyone's like, "Oh, this sucks," or like I like even more banal. I like traveling to the dungeon. I just
I
like
don't think that's weird
traveling.
at all.
It's
I think that creates a sense of world. That's
yeah.
super important. That's like my top thing in like Classic Plus is like developing the world and making sure that it feels huge and it feels like it's this massive place that you can explore and learn and um, exist in almost. Where like if you fly around at, let's say they increased like this is a kind of a strange thing, but like would people be neutral, happy, or upset about flight paths being faster? Like, I don't know.
I think if you take the most extreme ones, you might be like, all right, like I have to get up from my computer for 20 minutes, but maybe some people like it. Maybe you just can do something else. Maybe you can.
So like for me, the way that flight paths exist now, I think is perfect. But for a lot of people to be like, I think they should be faster because I don't like wasting my time. But if you did that, then the world would feel smaller by a degree to the change you made. Because everything that we see in the world frames how big it is, right? It's like if you see something from really far away and it looks small, but there was nothing to compare it to, it's just small, even if it's huge. And with the WoW world, if you fly around and you move really quick and you can teleport to the dungeons and your mount goes 300% speed, all of a sudden this world shrinks to 1/3 of the size. And it's kind of what happens with TBC, where like, not only did they put you into this world with only 5 zones pretty much, but then they also tripled your movement speed and let you fly over things. And
And portals.
and yeah, there's like more portals and it just takes away from that like grandiose scale of the world that um I don't know. I don't know, it provides something. I
Would
think
you
it
ever
provides wonder.
would you ever want in Classic Plus, I know this, a flying mount? Like maybe at the apex of play, like if you are at the very top, you get a freaking dragon and you can fly around and you can roam the skies, but only on that character and only on if you've spent just a top 0.1% of your time playing the game. But like, would that fit, or no flying mounts, or maybe more generically available?
Would like that as a player, but I don't think it's fair.
As a system? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think things can be that unobtainable. As a system. Like you can have gladiator mounts, but you can't have gladiators be the only ones who get flying mounts because that's unfair for pretty much everyone, right? But it would feel good as a gladiator. It would feel amazing. Um, and now I'm all about rewarding people that play well. But back to what I said in the very beginning, how like the game rewards time, not necessarily skill. You would have to, now I guess you could go like, it's like a really, really, really long grind that like you could do even if you're really bad at the game mechanically. Then only people who really invested in the world got it. I think that would be more fair, but I think that's an extreme example. Like flying mounts are just really OP.
It's really disruptive. Like you can just jump, you can go farm, you can jump over
Yeah,
all.
I think
Yeah,
it breaks classic a little too
you wouldn't
much.
be able to add it. It's
But
a trick question. Yeah.
I think you can add it to zone specific. Like if you're like, if you got really, really, I don't know, let's say there was some dragon faction, you could fly in burning steps, but it's only in burning steps because you're taking a loner dragon from the Black Rock Mountain or something. I could see something like that, but I don't know why they would add that. I don't know what it would do. I don't know even if it's a good idea. I don't even know if it makes sense. Um,
No, flying was just added as a big +1 in
no,
TBC. It's like,
I
dude, play
think,
TBC.
but at the same time, I don't think flying was necessarily a problem of TBC. I know that people say TBC flying was one of the biggest flaws that they made, and I've seen a lot of people say it. But at the same time, I played TBC and I loved flying. Maybe it was just the fact that it was new and we hadn't experienced the consequences of it yet. Because there was all this new stuff.
But it's a blast, man. Like I leveled a druid to do instant flying, so I just jump
Yeah,
off.
like it's fun.
It's great.
It's definitely got this like, it's definitely interesting to balance around. I think that the problem is, and especially in TBC, you can't fly everywhere. Even in Wrath, you can't fly everywhere. I think if TBC had flying and it was still focused around Eastern Kingdom's Kalimdor more, and you could only fly in Outlands, I think it would be fine. Even if they added like Outlands in Classic Plus, let's say one of my biggest fantasies for Classic Plus, sorry, the kind of
No,
derailing.
please do.
Okay, is they open the Dark Portal. Now, this is going to be weird. There's only 2 zones. It's Hellfire Peninsula and Shadow Moon Valley, the scariest, baddest zones in TBC. And then you have the Hellfire Citadel as a raid. You have Black Temple as a raid. There's no Shatwrath. So it's just those 2 zones. Shadow Moon is in front of Hellfire, so it's just this long, like demon-infested land. There's no flight paths. There's no Hearthstones. You have to go through the portal every time you go there. And you could fly if you do something. There could be some flying. But, like, I think you should have to literally go to the portal as a raid group and then, like, hoof it to the raid through Hellfire Peninsula, through to the Black Temple, and you could raid there or something. I think that would be amazing. Even there, I don't know if I would want flying mounts, but it could be because it's like this weird extension world where you're just spending a little bit of time, then you're coming back to reality.
It's an experience. It's not
Yeah.
a must-have always within the system. It can be something that you do that's like, oh wow, I'm now 10,000 feet in the air and I can see everything. And now I go back down. And
Yeah. But
man,
that
yeah.
that example is that example, sorry, I feel like I'm totally derailing this.
No, you're not.
But,
You're not. Please. Don't worry.
But with like new content, I think that Blizzard could experiment with things that we have done in the future of Classic, reimagined for Classic, under the same lens that Classic was designed. So world, social, time, then kind of gameplay focused. So it's like kind of building on these core things where it's like trying to interest you in the world, trying to get you to experience it with a bunch of friends, and then it's has to be some level of time consuming to keep your interest for enough to have enough substance, I guess. Not necessarily waste your time.
Where does hardcore fit in all this? Is this going to be a lost and forgot? Like, this is what keeps me up sometimes at night. I'm thinking, like, what happens to hardcore? Like, is it just going to be relegated to classic versions of the game, classic WoW, or is it going to be a mode in Classic Plus with its own separate servers? Can it even exist?
I think it has to be separate servers.
Yeah, of course.
I think it has to be separate servers. I don't think it can exist in Classic Plus without, like, I think it just shouldn't exist. As much as I love hardcore WoW, I think hardcore WoW is a leveling thing. So I think what they should do, if anything, is provide an alternative server for hardcore players with free transfer to any server you want to go to afterwards. And then you can level on the hardcore server if you want. Or, I mean, I guess I could see them adding a checkbox for hardcore and you can level hardcore and then maybe you get a buff forever on your character at 760.
You get two different players like kind of going at each other, no? Like it's like, you join a group and it's like, oh, the tank is hardcore, and it's like, oh, but we're not. And
right. It's a little weird. It gets a little wonky when you do that. That's what happened with self-found on hardcore servers, where you have these 2 players where like one is self-found and then he needs on an item that he doesn't need and he tries to trade you, but he's self-found. And it's like this like weird break. Like, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. That's why I think it should be on a separate server, but it could be on the main server. That's one of the questions Blizzard has to answer, honestly. I think the problem that it has, though, I think Classic Plus's main problem is if they're trying to offer a new experience, that's not really hardcore viable with the way Classic exists or WoW exists. Imagine trying to do hardcore TBC for the first time. You zone into Mag's Lair, and you don't know you're supposed to click the cubes on Blast Wave, and you wipe the whole raid. And it's like, you go into, obviously you would do it on the normal servers probably first, but I don't think I just don't think it's like feasible if they implement some harder mechanics. I think it really limits what Blizzard can do.
So hardcore
like TBC isn't really viable for hardcore. You can do it, but only like some people really care.
That's what it is. It's like, just to sum up what you were saying, I think, tell me if you agree, hardcore is a symptom of the problem, not the solution to the problem.
Hardcore is a symptom of the problem. I
It's a
think it
symptom of
can.
people wanting to play, right? Like they want to play in a different way. They try this game because it's masochist, man. Like I've lost characters. I
No,
spent 4 days playing, and it's like, why on earth am I doing this? And then, like, I just go
it's.
back to it.
I think it's. I wouldn't call it a symptom. I guess if you said the problem was that people um fall into this like min-max mindset and they're stuck in the meta, that that's the problem, and I would call it a solution to the problem of that, more than a symptom of it. Like I think hardcore, I guess, but I understand what you're saying, that like it's not really solving anything. It's just giving people like a new lens to look through almost and experience the game how it's kind of intended, even though it's um not perfect in its own regard. Where like it is increasing your investment and your time, but if you DC and you lose everything, you've just wasted your time. Not necessarily you've wasted your time, but like that happens. People just die and it's unfair. It's not a perfect system.
I mean, the fact of it is that the best social experiences I've ever had in this game have been through hardcore. I point to, especially with you, OnlyFangs, like the hardcore
Yeah,
element of it. That was probably like, I think that is an early stress test of like gaming content we'll see in the future. I have a lot of thoughts on OnlyFangs, but you combine everyone into high stakes scenarios where noobs and experts need to get together, and then if someone dies, it's a whole news beat, like in the whole community, and then everyone's clipping it. And it's like it's just so. Besides that, like I've met players that I've really connected with in a great way. Like dungeons feel way more serious and real. Like we're trying to actually go through it. People actually want to finish the quest. People want to help you. Just
yeah,
that's again, this is my very one-sided perspective because I haven't played the game in all its different ways, and not to the level I've done with classic and hardcore. But I'd be sad to see it go, and hopefully, but I would be okay with it if we can bring back these elements of like socialness and working together and shared stakes into Classic Plus.
yeah. In many ways, hardcore WoW doesn't necessarily make you do those things. It just enhances what people would do. Because there's a lot of like griefing in hardcore too, where like
I've
they
been
would just
briefed.
be world PvPing, but now they've have this like extra intense outlet for the same energy. And I think that's why we see like so much griefing in hardcore, is it's pretty much just like amplifying whatever people want to do in the game because of the stakes. So I definitely think that there could be room for maybe like a harder hardcore, or maybe like a higher stakes version of the game. Um Kind of like how pre-nerf TBC is a little bit more engaging than post-nerf for a lot of people, because there's like it's like a little bit harder and there's a little bit more stakes, like there's consequence more to your actions. Um but it also means there's a little bit more reward that you can overcome because you're overcoming more um adversity. So yeah, I think that WoW could benefit from some sort of like easy, normal, hard mode kind of thing, where it's not just like classic plus. You kind of like pick a server, and maybe that server is like maybe not like pure hardcore, but like you lose XP if you die or something. Like it could, maybe you don't like delete your character, but there could be some sort of consequence. I don't really know. Um, but like in um in EverQuest, it's really scary to die, but it's not hardcore. It's scary to die because when you die, you drop your things on the ground and you're naked and you respawn in town. So you have to go find your stuff again. Um, and there's no map, and you just have to find your way back there. And so like this is like an extreme example, but that kind of stakes makes you do the things slow, and it makes you take your time. And so I don't know. I could see it. I think they would just have to not do permadeath. I think permadeath is too intense.
Yeah, it's too harsh.
I don't know what it is though. I don't know what to do. But I think stakes could be higher. I think a lot of people would appreciate higher stakes because of the immersion it provides. Um, it could be worth looking into. I think Classic Plus game modes are a very underrated thing they can look into. Like almost like mini game modes where it's like hardcore WoW or like maybe facilitate like some like dungeon speedrunning thing in game or like have some sort of I think facilitating gameplay challenges or things that people like doing already in the game and they do it out of passion. I think facilitating that kind of stuff is just it's possible to mess around with.
It's that socialness, man. That's why we all play MMOs. We all want to compare each other to ourselves. We want to compare ourselves to other people. We want to feel good about the progress we've made. We want to work with people. We want to help them. People really want to help other people. We're wired for that. Whatever Classic Plus, I'm in line with everything you said. But for me, the big thing is, can I walk into this world and have meaning beyond just what I rate in? Can I go get a special mount that isn't just an insane grind like the Winter Saber or whatever? Like I thought the TBC engineering mount was a really good example. Like that was just a fun grind. I wanted to. I set my goal as getting that helicopter mount because I always thought it was cool and I never did it when I was a kid. And I remember in like what was it 2021 whatever it was I just went nuts and I just and I was just playing that all day. So with hardcore, I just hope they noticed how these communities interact and play together and like what it means to really value your character and your journey and like how you level. And I hope that gets taken into account. And look, if Classic Plus doesn't work, we'll all be back playing Classic anyway. I think that might be a bit tragic, but I just it's tough. It's tough to come up with something new and toe those two lines, like we said before: nostalgia and modernization. How on earth do you do something for both of those at the same time?
Yeah. You need, you need a very someone with a very clear vision of all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Can I ask you, you still got 5 minutes to talk or?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, man.
I'm not in any rush.
Okay, just wanted to check. Man, I want to talk to you about again this idea that you're stress testing MMOs, and I said this at the start. And the reason I see you as a stress tester is because you are also a guild leader. You're also someone who's managing these raids. You've you've done it in OnlyFans. You've done it with your own hardcore guilds. You've done it in Classic WoW. You've done it in a lot of private servers. You've been there since you were a kid. That is a really hard thing to do, man. Like that is a really like you're working with avatars to complete tasks that then have to have multiple people coordinating, and you're doing this through either Ven or then Discord or whatever it is. Like you're trying to get people to accomplish goals together. What is that like? Because I think very few people actually do that, and I think very few people have done it to the extent that you have.
In like hardcore or just in general?
I think in general, but then we can also move into hardcore. But I think in general first, because I still think there's an interesting dynamic there.
Um in general, I've learned over time that it's very hard coordinating people. That's the biggest challenge is just finding people and getting them all to log in at the same time is kind of hard. Um, you really have to give them a reason. You have to have like, it's not just like, hey, log in because we have a raid. It's like you have to almost like present people with a reason why they should be logging in every single week and raiding with you. And that is hard. That is a hard thing to convince people to do. To commit 4+ hours of their week every single week, or most weeks. I think that's step one for raid for raid leading. Step two, you have to make sure people's expectations are in line with one another. I think it's a big problem when you have a guild that's like, let's say, half of the people are trying really hard and then the other half of the people are slacking, your guild will die. Because half of your people are going to be upset every week. And I think it's a lot of managing expectations, convincing people, right? Like being like, hey, we are going to be really fast. We're going to do this first. We're going to do this and get really high parse numbers. We're going to have this, and this is our goal as a guild. I think it's very hard to just run a guild for friends. It can work if you have a really tight friend group, but it's really hard to get new friends in there because, yeah, people have to really like be willing to be everyone's friend, or it's not really worth for them. So I've always led my guilds with goals, and that's why I do hardcore raid leading. I don't run a normal guild. I've done it. It sucks. People quit. You have to recruit every single week. You have to manage. You have to deal with people you don't want to play with, even though they're slacking, even though their expectations might not be there. Maybe they're doing it out of obligation. It's a whole mess. It gets really messy. Guild leading, raid leading, it's really messy, especially, I would say, especially with a lot of friends. That's my worst nightmare, leading a guild with a bunch of friends. I'm sorry. I don't do it. I don't do it because you have to be the guy who's like, dude, you can't be doing this. Like, you're just like, come on, what is going on? Just quit. Just like, you don't want to be here, obviously. Like, why? You don't have to be here every week and like feel bad about like not coming. Like, just quit and just like, it's okay. Um, you know, but with hardcore raid leading and with goal raid leading, I would say I've led like server first guilds or world first guilds in hardcore. And it's always like trying my best to be like, guys, trust in me and we will clear this raid. We will be the number one raiders in hardcore Warcraft. And that's kind of what I sold people for Frontier. And so it's a lot of like I said, managing expectations, making sure people are kind of on the same page. The last thing you want is, I don't know, let's say you have like two people. One person is like insanely good player, and then you bring in like somebody's friend, and they play together and they have this experience where like person one was relying on the other person and they just left. And it's like, you got to have that like camaraderie and that you can trust everyone in the guild. And especially in hardcore when the stakes are there, where like you're going into a dungeon with random people and you're just trusting that they're good. That can be pretty hard. And with hardcore raid leading, surprisingly, there wasn't drama in Frontier. I kept it very in my last couple of guilds that I've ran, I've had a zero drama policy. If anyone causes any problems, they're gone. They're out the door instantly because I don't have time to deal with that. Especially in hardcore, like if someone's causing drama and you're like, can this guy be trusted to tank our raid? Like, is he just going to go nuclear on us? Like, what's going to happen? Yeah, like is this? You can't have unstable people like that in the raid. There was actually a point I had somebody join from a different hardcore guild, which, since this experience, I've become friends with them, and I've played with them, and they're great. They're very trustworthy. But at the time, it was just like he joined the Discord. He was super off-putting, very rude. I'm just like, this is just not. I'm sorry, it's not a good fit. This is not what I like. You can't be doing this in a guild like that. Like, come on. So that's like expectation-wise. Playstyle-wise, hardcore rating was crazy. I don't know, Frontier, like if I talk about it a little bit, but like Frontier was, if you don't know, when the hardcore servers came out, I ran a guild called Frontier, which we got pretty much every raid world first except for AQ. We actually made a plan that didn't involve most of AQ. Our goal was just to get KT, the last final boss, first. So we made a plan. I made like this whole spreadsheet. I planned it out by the week because you got weekly resets. I had scheduled our raids for the first month. like before launch, because we knew about it like about 2 to 3 months before. We had like hosted leveling tournaments to get people speed leveling quicker and get used to it. It was the it was honestly great. I loved it. It was so fun. I was actually going through my old video footage. I'd recorded a Frontier meeting, and it was stone silent that first meeting. I rewatched just like 5 minutes of it, and it's just me rambling. I'm just reading my spreadsheet the whole time for like an hour. Nobody said a word, and then they all left, and they just speed leveled, and then we got everybody in. It was crazy. So people were so locked in. I've never seen since then. I've never seen anything like it. But we'd got the like best people from every guild. It felt like it was such a crazy recruiting experience. And we got in there every single day. We leveled. We had like I think like a day 11 MC clear in hardcore WoW, which was crazy. We had the no life sweats. Everybody was sweating in our guild. It was ridiculous, dude.
Dude,
But
can I say quickly, everything you've said so far, and I just wanted you to pop off. Like, to me, it sounds like you're running a business. Like, you're a really good like business owner or business runner, whatever you want to call it, chief executive.
yeah,
Because like everything you've said, like the not getting your like not doing getting into business with your friends because it gets weird because you got to tell them stuff that's wrong. You got to
right.
get the best people to make them sure that they're aligned to a vision or a
No, that's
goal.
how I run it, dude.
Bro, I'm serious, man. Like, and this is what drives me crazy about MMOs. It's like, oh, like when I was growing up, it's like, oh, World of Warcraft, they don't teach you anything. And I'm like, just listening to you talk about how like you mobilize groups of people towards like a common goal is incredible, man. Like genuinely, and it's like not even just like you could say you're building this type of business. Like, well, we need this type of people, these types of people, and blah, blah. But like you've literally checked off all the boxes of like what it means to like coordinate people towards a common goal in
Yeah,
pursuit of an objective. And it was like, wow. So I just wanted to say, I just want to interject because like, damn, like it's like that's really hard to do. Like, and it takes a lot of experience and wisdom in understanding how these dynamics work and like what is good for
yeah.
a group.
Learning. I think in that same regard, it's interesting you said that. I kind of do run it like it does feel like running a business. I get burnt really quick though running a guild. I can't handle it long term.
It's hard.
It's a lot of work. I've recently gotten better at giving off responsibility to people, at delegating.
Another
That's
core
a really
component.
that's a hard thing to do, dude. I can't do it. It's very hard for me. Um, but yeah, yeah. We did it for Frontier 2. I delegated a lot more for Frontier 2, and it was a better experience for me. I played RuneScape all day, so it worked. But like the guild sacrificed because I wasn't around as much.
It's hard to let go of that control, man. It's I think that's normal for anyone, especially someone like you who's like is so good at this game, knows it so well. In a lot of ways, you inevitably become a perfectionist, and not in a negative way, but like you
Yeah,
want like you, and especially if you're in hardcore, where like if things go wrong, not only do people clip you and clip the
yeah,
guild and say what happened, but like it does go back to the raid leader, and
yeah. Like I said, I scheduled out raids for every Frontier raid. We would have two 20-man raids going, and I would raid lead both of them. Even though I only had one character, I would raid lead because I didn't trust the people to raid lead it. But I'm justified in that, by the way, because the time I took off, I actually was raiding. Okay, in the middle of Frontier, ICC came out, and I was doing PTR for that, and we got server first there at the same time. So I was on like no sleep doing ICC PTR. I took off 1 week, and they wiped, dude. They wiped that 1 week I took off. So you know what? It's not perfectionism. They just need me.
they just need you.
They need a
They,
babysitter. They need some babysitter. That's what I do. When I'm a raid leader, I'm really just babysitting people's mistakes. I'm not really telling them how to play. Like my raid leading style, I'm not limit max coordinating them all the time. I'm kind of just watching them and being like, yeah, no. Like you need to back up. Like back up right now. You're about to pull in like 5 seconds. Like you are going to make a big mistake very soon. Please don't do it. Um, And that's kind of what classic raid leading is. It's very much like herding people in the right direction rather than being like reading off a checklist, a timer coming out 3 seconds, 2 seconds, move left, go in, go out. You know, um, Some things are like some bosses, maybe for Horsemen or Cthulhu are like that, but yeah,
Those wipes are tough, man. Like you lose
they're
like
really
you lose
hard.
your best people. Like what do you do? Like how was it hitting a huge wipe and being like, all right, like we got to wait for these guys to level back up, or
Well,
what do you
I'll tell
do,
you about
right?
that. So like,
Yeah.
we had a perfect record through first MC, through most of BWL, through early AQ. And then we started farming the raids. And I made a critical error one week. We lost like 4 people. Boom. Down. That sucks. As a hardcore raid leader, your mental goes in the bin, but you still have to finish the raid. So you have to replace 4 of your friends that you just killed, and they're crying in Discord because they've been no-lifing 20 hours a day for a month. They're barely sleeping, wired on like caffeine and coffee, and they're just like barely functioning, and it's just like you're kicking them out of the raid and bringing in someone else. And it's so soul crushing as a leader to see that, knowing that you could have done something better. And I know people feel that even in like non-leader situations, like in OnlyFans, people like killed their character because they felt guilty about it. They felt the survivor's guilt is very real, and I mean, in real life or WoW, but it's weird that it's in WoW, but it's very real. People feel like, man, like that is really, I can't believe that I didn't do that. Like, but so that aside, like that's pretty mentally taxing. Hardcore deaths like that are rough. But we had a really bad wipe. We never had a full wipe in Frontier, but it was, so our whole thing from level 1 to KT dying took 49 days real time. It was really fast. That's a month and a half of real time. And so we're clearing. In this time, we have 100 raiders hit level 60 and 50 of them died. So we were down to 50 players only. We only had 50 players. And the day before KT, we were doing our final BWL clear because we needed flasks. So we are going to use that thing, and maybe we get like a DFT or something. So it's like really good gear could drop from this easy dungeon. Our main off tank died. And so the day before KT, we had already cleared 11 bosses in Nax that week. So we'd already done most of it. We had the hard main hitters left. We were put in a situation where we lost our tank. If we went to next week, Tuesday comes around, we wouldn't have the tanks for patchwork. So it would be setting us back weeks and weeks. And we couldn't do that because half our roster was dead. We only had 50 people left. So we couldn't go for more weeks because we had an attrition rate of like 5 people a week and only 2 people were leveling to 60. So we were going -3 every single week, and they were geared players dying. So like we were in this position where our final KT kill, or our only KT kill, our final Nax, we were going in with 49 people or something. We had some deaths. We got down to 44, somewhere around there, or like low 40s. Keep in mind, 40 is the raid number. You need 40 people. So we were on our last limbs going into KT the final day. And I really didn't think we could do it. Honestly, I thought it was going to be death. I thought we were going to wipe to KT. But we pulled through, and we had like, our bench was fully pulled in. We were like bringing in pre-raid bis mages that had never raided before. We brought in priests that had never seen a raid. Like we scrambled to get them attuned last minute. And I had to make this call where it's like, we have to go today. It wasn't even a raid day, which we raided 6 days a week, but this was not even a raid day for us. And we killed KT at 3 a.m. We have Europeans in the raid where it's 8 a.m. for them. Like it was so dire, dude. We killed it on a Monday morning, resets the next day. And that's like the pressure with hardcore raiding, where you're put in a position where you kill the boss this week or you never kill it. And there's nothing like that in WoW outside of hardcore. I've never been in that situation where it's like you go now or never, and you have to make the call. You have to decide and say like, even though we're underprepared or we feel underprepared, we have to try, or we're never gonna get the chance, or it'll be like months. Or have to read like level people up and maybe don't raid so we don't die. It's like this whole
It's incredible.
like we
Man,
can't do
yeah,
that.
man.
So that was Frontier. It was a lot. There was a lot
Yeah.
going on. Every single day we raided. We raided well, I guess not every single day. We raided 6 days a week, and we were like the only guild on the raid, the hardcore server, actually raiding for the first month, maybe a little like 3 weeks. So we were self-found as well, because nobody else was really 60 farming. So we would spend 6 days raiding, 6 hours plus a day, and then we'd spend that 7th day farming consumes for the next 6 days. So it was like this constant on, like rush. I've never had so much content to do. It was insane, dude.
What type of coordination does it require? Like, you need so much coordination amongst the teams in outside raid. Like,
I prepped for months, every single day. I didn't even have I had a job. I had a part-time job. I worked 20 hours a week. And then I probably spent 30 hours plus a week doing spreadsheets and prep and planning for hardcore raiding. I actually had made like a boss simulator. Not like that it would simulate the boss fights, but like a raid simulator where like I could put in people's gear level and it would pull out their sim, and it would be like, this raid sims at this DPS total and this much healing. Healers could do approximately this much healing, and your tanks could take this much damage before dying. The boss does this much, and it's just a math problem where it's like, that seems doable. Let's send it. So our first patchwork was I put it in the sims, and I'm like, this seems probably fine. And like, so we got like these like gear lists set up. We prepped leveling routes for people. We prepped leveling groups. We had like dude, this was crazy. We had helpers level up level 60s to give them recipes so they could level up a new character to play. So we had like parked level 60 alts, and we had designed them in a way where we would funnel them specific reps, and they could double up on like enchanting and blacksmithing and be like the Thorium Brotherhood guy, where they get the fire res gear and the int enchant.
that's insane.
And it was this whole thing. We had helpers, people that weren't even planning on raiding, that just farmed ore to get us Thorium Brotherhood rep for fire res gear so we could rush to BWL. I mean, we got BWL down like second week or something, like third week of the launch, and you need like fire res gear for that on hardcore. We had people farming timber maw, and like it was all pre-orchestrated. It was just planned out ahead of time, and then people got like kind of chose roles and picked certain things to do. There's yeah.
I mean, not only were the stakes high because of the permadeath part, but you were competing against a lot of other guilds. Like, you're going for world first, man. Like, that is, for a game as popular as World of Warcraft, like,
yeah, I think we ended up being like 2 weeks ahead of the next guild or something.
I can tell. I mean, that makes sense based on how much you guys are planning. It's incredible.
The only thing we didn't do, we never did AQ, because I was like, it's not worth the risk. Like, if we die on AQ and then can't kill KT, like, what do we get out of that? You don't need the gear. Honestly, if I did it again, I think I always say this, I think we could skip like all of the gearing and just get like full world buffs and send it in pre-raid bis. Do it in like 3 weeks. I think it's completely doable.
If you're coordinated enough, right? It's not so much the stats you get from the gear. It's just being coordinated, doing these things, being in the right place at the right time.
That's kind of what I learned from it, is like exactly how OP it is to get a full raid of world buffs. Like, your entire raid is a perfect stack of like warriors and rogues and hunters and priests, and you have one warlock, one mage, and you just go in and everything just pressing delete.
You're breaking a system that I don't think even the WoW, the WoW designers would have never dreamt of you guys like getting to this point
Yeah,
because
getting
it required.
Fury prot tanks with 12k HP world buffed, and you're using like bag of marbles on this boss to nullify his hatefuls. So your tanks are wearing really DPS gear, and it's like you're doing. It's insane. The DPS is
It's
insane. It's
insanity.
off the walls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, it's unbelievable. Um, I mean, okay, here's my question then, which I was thinking of earlier. Will raiding feel the same without the permadeath part? Will leading a raid guild, doing everything, because I feel like it's part of what makes everything you're saying so special. And I think, again, for the audience listening that may not be super aware, if anyone dies in these raids, they lose their characters, which is, I mean, you need hundreds, 1,000 hours to get to where you are to be able to do it at that level, and you need to learn the game really well. So again, I ask you, if you were to go raid in Classic Plus, go raid in retail, it's going to be like if you're going to lead in those types of games, is it going to feel the same?
Yeah, it does. I have been raid leading in retail. It's a completely different style of game, and the stakes are completely different, but ultimately it's just solving the puzzle of the boss or the challenge that you're faced. And it, for me, as much as hardcore is really fun, I don't like hardcore raiding. I liked it because it was like a challenge for me. I liked that it was a goal for me. I liked that it was a world first. It pushed me to play it, and it does make me have a good RPG time. But I actually think hardcore raiding is too stressful. I never hardcore farm. It's why we cleared KT once and I never logged in again. And it's the same thing with Front 2. We cleared it once and I never logged in. I haven't even logged in the characters since on either of them. Um, and for me, it's all about that journey to that goal. And hardcore is kind of like a facet of the goal, where like the goal couldn't have happened without hardcore. I would have never done Front 2 or Frontier without it. So it was a lot of fun, but I don't think it's good for rating. I think it's really is bad because you do really, really min max. Like when I say you min max, like you are bringing like marble rotations from Elwyn Forest, and you're casting, the boss is missing 25% mischance. So like the whole time, and you're doing that on like every boss. It gets gimmicky to a sense, like because there's no reason why you should risk your character when you have these alternative like gimmicks that you could do. Um, it helps you learn about like mechanics, but long term, I just don't enjoy it. I've tried. There's some guilds that are able to like continuously go, but um, I think for me, it's more about that goal that I set, and that's more important than the actual like permadeath. So as long as Classic Plus offers like, if I'm leading a guild that's like trying to get like server first or world first Classic Plus raids, I think I'd feel exactly the same as I did in Frontier. I would be a little less stressed, if anything.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah,
Man, it's so interesting talking to you, man, because I've been romanticizing hardcore WoW for a long time. And I think speaking to someone that has kind of lived it, I think 10 lifetimes more than I have, because I've still played the game, but you've really been to the pinnacle of what hardcore is. Despite all the great that it brings to the game and how it gets people to play and how you can kind of utilize systems and the leveling journey and just all that, I kind of see what you're saying. I have to agree because I've you go watch all my other podcasts and I do bring up hardcore a lot, and I even brought it up with people I've spoken to at Blizzard. But I just speaking to you, I'm like, yeah, I guess it is talks at its root. It's such a tough, like to die and lose your character is such a tough blow to all the hours and effort that you spend in it. That like in the long run, it just again, like you said, it burns you out.
well,
It
the problem with it in my head is that it creates this like, is that worth the risk? And it's like when you're leveling, those decisions you're making yourself, and you're like, is that quest worth the risk? No, I'll just explore somewhere else. But the reality is that endgame, if the endgame isn't worth the risk, you're logging off. And so it creates this like pressured culture where it's like, I'm only playing unless I have like a full guild group. And then it turns into, I'm only playing unless I have a full guild group of geared players that know what they're doing. And then you get pushed pretty much offline because you're raising the bar to wherever you've made it. And you don't really want to help new players. You don't really want to risk your character for no reward. And it becomes very toxic and very like you're basically your best option is not playing, and that's not good for the game. So that's why I don't like hardcore endgame.
Makes sense. It makes sense. When I spoke to Zario, he said for him, it's about Classic Plus is about preserving the soul of Classic, right? It's like the you want it
Yes,
still to come
for me
out.
too.
Is that for you the same? Do you have like is there a way you see it, or is that exactly it for you?
I think that the soul of Classic Plus, I'm a little bit. I would put myself way more purist than Zaryu. I think the soul of Classic Plus for me is probably a different definition. I want them to respect the original design philosophies and decisions behind what they did. So, like for Druid, as a good example, Druid is balanced as a class. I wouldn't want them to balance classes as specs. I wouldn't want necessarily. I think they can balance classes and talent trees without changing it to be like really spec focused. Like they could nerf Fury Warrior passive talents and kind of like tune it a little bit without changing the class entirely. Um, but like they shouldn't take Whirlwind away from a Prot Warrior, and they shouldn't take Taunt away from a Fury Warrior. So like um, for me, the soul of Classic Plus is just kind of trying to keep what the original developers did mostly intact and just fine tuning it with their principles. And I think that's the key, is because the game was designed with a vision in mind that people really resonate with. And I think trying to apply a more modern vision or someone new's vision on it is very dangerous, because you're going to get this weird mix where like some stuff is the old vision and some stuff is the new vision, and you just don't really resonate with half of the new content. And I think that's very dangerous for the player base. I think it's for the game. So
Do you have any advice for anyone that looks up to you and says, "Oh, I'd love to, I'd love to be a streamer, stream WoW, or maybe lead hardcore raid guilds." I mean, God bless them if they do. But what advice do you have for someone looking at your kind of journey and they just want to follow your footsteps in some way, or follow what you're doing, or you name it? Just someone who's coming out of high school right now that wants to build games, or whatever it may be, that wants to work in games or wants to play games for an audience, whatever it is. How do you see your life and where you've gotten to now?
I wouldn't suggest it to anyone necessarily. Um, I feel like if people want to chase their passion, it's the only way you can get to something like a streamer, or, I mean, to an extent, maybe game development. I think game development is maybe a little more approachable than streaming. I think streaming is pretty much, you could have the best personality and the best um I don't know, like production. You could put in like really high effort and make good content, but it's going to take time. And you have to be able to be willing to do that for an amount of time that's undetermined, because you don't know how long it's going to take. And that's very hard. It's very hard mentally, I think, to put yourself out there and make really good content. I think good content speaks for itself. Um, I don't think I make good content. I think that I set myself aside from doing crazy stuff. So that's one way you can do it. But you could also make really good stuff, and I think that's probably the most reliable way. Um, but I think that the core is just passion. Do you think that you can stick with whatever you're doing and put your soul into it and just try to make it the best you can and just ignore everything else. 'Cause if you can't do that, then I don't know. It's pretty hard.
All right. Ahmpy, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. I've had an absolute blast talking to you, and let's definitely do this again. But thank you, genuinely. Your stories are incredible.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Glad I could to share them. I don't know. It was a blast.